yesterday some comments from the HBC. Is there anyone here to speak to that local law? All right, then hearing none, I'll move to hold the public hearing open until our next meeting. So we have thank you.
Discussion?
Yeah.
Is there enough, I've been trying to follow all the back and forth on this.
Yeah, that's why I figured I
My
wanted them here and all that.
question to Joe is, Joe, the changes that you and the Historic Commission came up with, do they change the law that we are having the hearing on enough that we should close the hearing and have a new hearing?
No, well, I know what you're getting at, and it's a little of both. In other words, what you should not do, they do not change the law fundamentally in its intent.
Right.
They are syntax changes that do make clarifications that I think are valuable and important.
So we leave the hearing open?
Right, so what you should not do is close the public hearing.
Okay.
You don't need to close it and then open a new one. We'll coalesce their comments, because as you said, it's hard to follow precisely what these changes are. I'll put them into one document, and we'll be ready to go.
Next.
Leave the public hearing open.
And hopefully we can have Tom Olson or someone from the HBC here to walk us through the
Not
thoughts.
this time, the other time.
Yeah, the other time, the other
Right.
time. The historic time,
I
not
don't
the
think we need
village
to be
time.
walked through, I just didn't know, with all the changes back and forth,
Right, same
whether
here.
it really changes intent enough.
And we got so many changes so late in the game, it's just I'm not gonna be able to get.
And since we're talking, I'm sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Just let me know the emails that went back and forth to copy the clerk's office, you actually have a copy.
Right, I saw that, thank you, Katie.
What I would recommend is, I will, by early next week, I will put all those comments together into one law, in the proper format. When you have the HPC representatives here at your next meeting, that's when everybody should get on the same page about, did we do this, does this say what we want it to say? If I may, I would suggest then that you hold the public hearing open one more time and adopt it at the next meeting I'm at. And the reason for that is that if there are any changes at all, the safest route to go is to make sure that the law in its absolute final form is in each of your inboxes at least 8 days before you adopt it, which is what the law says about adopting a local law.
But since we have been playing with this since last spring,
Right.
wouldn't it be, could we not get it taken care of?
You could, and so here's the caveat to that. If at that next meeting, the law that I have sent is really fine, if we're not doing anything except, adding missing periods or, that kind of thing, and I'll give you this advice in writing before that meeting, then go ahead and adopt it. All I'm saying is if you have any doubts that night that any change that has been made may be a material change, just hold it open one more time, as you say. It's been out there a long time, hold it open
And
one more time.
They need those
and
changes.
we'll get it done.
They've been waiting for this for about a year.
I know.
So I think that they're all okay with waiting another month.
Yeah. And I don't suggest, it's entirely possible that nothing will
Nothing.
change once this thing is pulled together and you can adopt it that night.
And
I'll
when you
give
get it
the
all
advice.
together, you can say, yes,
Exactly.
we can do it, no, we can't.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to hold open the public hearing until our next village board meeting. And that's already been seconded by Ariana. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and I do apologize. For those who don't know and are watching, obviously, we have the town board here with us. It's a joint meeting of the town and village boards, and then there will be a meeting of the village board alone. So we are doing both sets of business tonight. There's not, it's not listed on the agenda, but I think it's kind of common sense. If there's any public comment that is specifically for the joint boards, that would be, I think, appropriate to hear now.
I would
Yes.
make a motion about accepting the agenda first, or?
Oh, we probably should do that.
Shouldn't we open with the pledge?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we do that first?
You know what? Yeah, because I've got all that under the village section. I'm just reading down the list. I apologize.
So we're moving up the pledge and all that?
We're doing, all right. How about this? Will you all please rise for the pledge of allegiance?
You can't go wrong with the pledge.
Katie, would you mind? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Kate, you and I have to remember to just duplicate that beginning
I just made myself.
for the joint meetings, yeah. All right, I know there was there were a few items from town board members that had been requested for the joint meeting that I instructed clerk not to because we had no information, but as always, I can be overruled by a majority vote. So, is there anything not listed that we need to talk about jointly?
Well, I would like to, I know the rescue squad had requested to come talk to the joint town and village, and the rescue squad was the one who made the call, and they were told that they couldn't be on the agenda tonight. So if we don't feel that there's time to talk about them, what I would like to do is schedule another meeting before the town has to adopt their budget for the rescue squad to be able to come to present to the town and the village what's going on with the rescue squad, what their needs are, and how we as a community want to address it. And so we don't have to do it tonight, they're not here, although I could speak on their behalf.
I think there was some cross wires actually, because I talked to Lauren Rooney, who is the president of the rescue squad. She called me yesterday because she wasn't sure whether it was best to come here or somewhere else. What I had suggested to her, and if it's wrong, we can follow your advice, obviously, but because the rescue squad is funded out of the A fund, and which is town-wide, everyone pays it, I suggested that it might be a better venue for one of the town discussions on the budget, and we can all come to that meeting if we have concerns about it. But since the village has no direct say in that funding, it might be more appropriate for a town board meeting.
Well,
So I just want to make sure,
I'll just give you a quick little history. What happened at the last town gown meeting, where the rescue squad talked about their needs and the fact that they, have one shift, but they're, I don't want to talk for them, but the rescue squad did a whole thing about where they're at and their need as a department, and a lot of the extra calls really are calls in the village that are really demanding a lot of the extra, services they need. And actually, a lot of it's Woodland Pond, so it's really a bigger discussion in a way, because it might have to do with the pilot and stuff. And so I had suggested to them that we would be having a joint town village meeting, and it would probably be best for them to come to speak to both of us together to start, and then we'd go from there from the town perspective of where we go from the town, but that it would be good for us as a community as a whole to talk about the needs of the rescue squad. So I had asked her to call 2 weeks ago to get onto the joint town agenda. So I was the one who suggested, let's talk about it together collectively. There was, way back when Tom Nyquist was mayor and I was supervisor way back, we had at that point agreed to split the cost of the rescue squad, because you can't do it with the police. You can't move the police out of the
like the
A
fire
fund.
department.
Right, and the fire, okay, but with the rescue squad, we are allowed to actually have a separate contract between the town and the village with the rescue squad. And so we did that for a number of years. I don't know if it was under Tony or Don, but at one point it got moved back to
I
they
think it
were
was
paying.
me and Don. Anyway, it doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter. The point was, so
How
I'd
about
like
this?
for us to
Is this something you'd like to have on the agenda?
we could either put it on the agenda, or I'd like to schedule a meeting for two boards just for the rescue squad so they could come and talk to us. And so we could do it another night. The rescue squad conversation has to happen before we adopt our budget November 22nd.
Would you be opposed to us just showing up to one of your town budget
If
meetings?
you could all come, they could come tomorrow night. I have to look at the schedule for our budget
I can't.
in terms of, but I don't know if you can all make it tomorrow night.
I can't.
I can't.
Well, you have more than one meeting anyway, yeah?
Well, it's just a matter of we have,
November 16th.
when do we have the next, we have a meeting tomorrow night, we're gonna do the budget, and then we schedule, because we have to do the public hearing.
The 16th.
So we have a couple more meetings scheduled. If anybody has it, then we could invite you to come to.
How about this? If you want to change the arrangement, send us a proposal, and then
It's not a matter of we wanting to change the arrangement, it's a matter of the rescue squad needing, the rescue squad, there's a big level of what they need. What they're gonna ask for might be scaled down. We might wanna do more or less, whatever, but it's, I think, a decision that I would like the boards to have. And so that's why I asked them to get themselves on for tonight's meeting.
Can we try the committee system that has worked pretty well? And
Like we've
see
done in
if
the
we can
past?
have
We
two
could-
members from the town, two from the village come up with a proposal?
We could do that. The only problem is, again, they are looking for more money
I
for,
don't think you'll have it in time for the budget.
No, and plus their meetings are at the end of the month. Their monthly
well, it's not a matter of the rescue squad, it's not their meetings.
Right.
They know what they need, and,
Right.
Well-
and they need to explain it to the community, and they need to.
okay, hold on, because we've got it's. I want to not let the meeting get away with this. Right now, regardless of what we do in the future, right now this is a town budget issue, and because it is an A fund issue. So I guess the question is, this the end of, middle of October? You
Dates
adopt your budget when?
Do you have the dates of when we have our?
Just, Susan, when do you adopt your budget by? End of
We have to
November?
adopt it by November 22nd.
By end of November, okay.
So I propose.
So is it a problem for us to just, if there's an issue, I guess I'm not hearing, one, I'm not understanding the issue. Two is, what we're discussing now is the agenda of our joint meeting. So if we're gonna take up a lot of time discussing an issue before we've adopted the agenda, we're kind of putting the cart before the
Well,
horse.
no, I was asking, because
We
I
have a public hearing on our budget November 6th.
But because I had asked them to schedule themselves for this night, because they
And
were
I
told.
spoke to
no.
Lauren and we agreed that it was best if she went to the town.
I understand, well, that's what you and her agreed to. I had asked her to come to the joint meeting. She was told, no, come to the town. I'm asking, because we're talking about the agenda, how we can put the rescue squad on the agenda either tonight or we can just have another meeting with the both boards to talk about the rescue squad, because that's what I'm requesting. You can all just say no.
All right, tell you what, well, I'm just gonna add that as number 5. Discussion of joint meeting for rescue squad.
Thank you.
That way we can.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
Just the
trying
That's fine.
I'm trying to get us through the list.
That's great, thank you.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, any other requests for,
I have
agenda.
an announcement, but,
yeah, let's hold off on that for the moment.
Yeah.
Until we get the agenda set.
right.
Any other, going once, going
I'm
twice?
asking the question to take something off,
Okay.
because I don't know why you have, or whoever asked for an executive session.
I did because there have been some questions and misunderstandings about personnel matters in the village that I need to clarify. This should be a brief one.
Wait, so
You mean
And it
involving
bears on a
both of
comprehensive
us?
plan.
is this
With-
for the
joint meeting,
town
joint
and village?
meeting, yeah,
So,
town and village both.
I think we need to specifically say what position we're talking about.
Well, it's clear since it's about our planner and
Okay.
why he was dismissed, because it affects items number 2 and 3. I know because I was on leave when this conversation began, I want to at least explain why what happened, and that's all.
So that's,
So everyone hears it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, that's all.
Just from a procedural perspective,
Mhm.
you can't, you can't put executive session on an agenda, you have to just do motion to go into
I
executive session.
figured I'd give you all a heads up.
No, but I'm just saying, from a technical perspective, we have to vote to choose to go into
Yes,
executive
of course,
session.
that would be, so it should be phrased, potential vote to go into executive
Or
session to
personnel,
discuss
Or personnel, then you make a
what
motion.
personnel and potential litigation or whatever it is that we're going to. All right. We use a shorthand, I apologize.
No, I know, but-
So does that answer your question, Sally? Okay, because I put it first because it bears directly on 2 and 3. Any other going once, going twice? All right, sold. Now I will, is there joint, just so you realize too, if there's something village specific, I know it's asking a lot to be patient, but we will have a village board meeting where we'll have public comment again on things that are only of concern to the village board. But if you have public comment it's important that the town and village boards both hear, please speak up now. Yes,
Ours isn't, Jason, but I just need to know if we're on the agenda for tonight rather than.
for which one? I believe the
105.
short-term rentals is, I'm just looking for where.
I couldn't find it, I was gonna add it.
It is not.
Oh, no, it's right, it's in the packet to be added, so that, because Joe, we're ready for that now? We got that after the agenda was set, so, there will be discussion of the local law specifically. If that's-
Tonight?
Tonight. Assuming the board could vote to not talk about it, but I think that's unlikely. Any other joint public comment? All right, is there any announcements that are specific to joint
Yes.
meetings? Yes,
I have a sad thing to report and then 2 very nice things to report. The juju tree that the Shade Tree Commission planted with the help of Chris Marks and company last Arbor Day has been stolen from Moriella Park.
how do you steal a tree?
You just dig it up and-
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm coming to check your yards, everybody. Who's got our juju tree?
was it cut
Now,
down?
the other thing
No, it was dug up,
is
and then it was covered up.
Shade Tree is
Yeah.
going to plant with the town's agreement, 3 chestnut trees at Moriella Park. And so that's a nice thing that we're doing together. And we also are going to create with the highway department, and Blue may use it too, a small, I call it a tree storage nursery, at the landfill, a 50 by 50, so that if trees are donated, we have a place to keep them until they can be planted in the proper season. So thank you, town, for agreeing to do that. Okay, that's it for me.
I thought there was three. There was two. I thought you had three.
There's three.
Oh, that
3
two.
was the
I
stone
have
juju.
an announcement. Last Saturday was Make a Difference Day, and we had 26 volunteers from the SUNY campus come and help clean up the village. And I was thinking, because I didn't know how many we'd have. Actually, 21 signed up, and it was the first time I ever had more volunteers instead of less volunteers that actually signed up. And so we had them scraping stickers off of some of our municipal signs. We had them paint the gazebo in Housebrook Park. And we had them do a street cleanup. And I'm thinking that next year we should have the village and town team up, since we had so many volunteers, and give them more projects, because there was definitely more people than needed to do the 3 things that we had listed. So I think we should just keep it in mind. It's every October. It's a national day, so we can plan for it.
And may the minutes note and thank Ariana for organizing this and seeing it through.
And
Thank you.
thank you to Lou and Heather, who really helped to organize it and get the supplies for us.
I would like to make one more comment on the same subject. I noted that on these 2 successive days, that there were these rather large groups of students coming directly off campus to do that, and I stopped to thank them. And I heard just an incidental comment from one of them, a young lady saying, "Well, I will never litter again."
Nice.
And I felt very good hearing that.
Please.
I just want to, very quick, today was the second meeting that the governor hosted up in Albany on the New York Rising program, where they had all of the groups that are participating in this New York Rising program, where we can get money for flood remediation and building more resilient communities, of which our group is represented. So it was an all-day conference. It's an amazing project. It's amazing stuff that's going on. But I just want everybody to just also know that it's been noted that the town and village committee have been working incredibly well together, which takes 3 million you could get, 3 million we could get, possibly making it 9 million that we could get. Then there's
36.
also more money, excuse me? We can get 3, they can get 3, you can get 3, we can get 3, and by us working together, we can get another 3.
Oh,
for a total of 9 million.
another
For a
3.
total,
Yes.
I see.
just by the fact of us playing nice, we can get another $3 million. So your 3, our 3.
It's a good incentive.
Okay,
And playing
so
nice
6
three.
makes 9, but then on top of it, there's also more money that's available for communities that are working together. So even though we're sort of working together, there's even more money because we're working in a bigger group with the whole Ulster County, so there's even more money that we could possibly get. It's $32 billion that's available. $32 billion, it's a billion that's available through all this stuff. It's a lot of
Not for
money.
us.
It's a lot.
You'd have to play really, really nice to
There's a real lot of money, and what they're asking is also for everybody to think really, really big. And so like the potential of even like having the whole entire sewer plant in the village completely rebuilt, with money that's not taxpayers' money is a real opportunity, and they're asking everybody to think really big because there is so much money. And so it's been noted that how well the town and the village are working together on this project. And so I just wanted to, bring that up, and it's really pretty phenomenal what's going on. And
Great. Susan, would you mind, because people at home may not know what the hell you're talking about, like the 3-sentence, and I know this is hard for you, 3-sentence version of what New York Rising is, so people know what money you're talking about?
New York Rising is federal money that went from the federal government to the state that's being given to the local communities that have identified as communities that have been damaged by Hurricane Irene and Sandy, so we could build back
Period.
better. Build back.
That's one, free run on something.
Exactly.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That can build back better to build resilient communities. And the only other thing that's really important to know is it's really from bottom up. So what they're doing is asking the people from the community to identify what they believe within their community needs to be done in order to make our communities resilient. So if another storm happens, we're not trying to deal with the devastation. We've protected us from the devastation. And that's basically the essence of what this is.
Thank you. All right, we've got public comment, we've got an announcement. Oh, you've got an announcement, please?
Yes.
Please.
Public workshop
Does New Paltz need a new bus station?
Yes.
The New Paltz intermodal feasibility study, a public hearing, it's basically like an open public workshop taking place at the Student Union Building, November 21st at 7 p.m. That's at the SUNY New Paltz campus. I attended one of the initial meetings that took place between Ulster County, UCAT, Trailways, and New Paltz, basically, just to sort of kick off a public session that can possibly study the possibility of getting a bigger and better bus station that can combine all of our different intermodal methods of transportation and, just make us much more efficient. And I think it applies to the town too, also because a lot of town people use
It
public
came
transportation.
through the Transportation Implementation Committee, which a year ago started talking about the possibility of an intermodal.
Yes.
Okay,
But
and that's what this is.
November 21st at 7 p.m., Student Union Building on campus, and I think you probably got that right. All right.
Any other announcements? All right, then I would like to move to go into executive session to briefly discuss personnel and contractual issues. Is there a second?
You need to specify which personnel matter.
Yeah.
What was the question, Kitty?
Where was the juju tree?
It was in Moore Hill,
In Royal Park. Where was it planted?
right, here's the parking lot, right?
That's too.
Chris, up from the parking lot?
Yeah, there's the parking lot and the path up to the entrance.
And it
There's a like grassy space.
Go look for the dirt pile.
No, they covered it up.
Yeah.
They took it and then smoothed it over.
Jeez, that is
But there's no grass
It
there,
was,
right?
it was slide.
All right, Kitty, to address your concern, personnel matters which led to the termination of a particular individual. Is there a second to that?
I'll bring the same motion on part of the town board.
Second, I'll second.
Thank you. So all in favor on the village board?
Aye.
And the town, is there a second to your motion?
I seconded it.
And all in I guess, sorry, your prerogative, are all in favor of on the town board?
Aye.
Thank you. It'll be brief, folks, I promise. I just missed it. Necessarily for something for us to take action on, but just to notice that who Katie found, or Nancy, I can't remember who, that as an example of the fact that there is grant money available for master plan updates, which has not been a part of the discussion to my knowledge, and instead has been a discussion of just spending money now, mid-budget year for us, and I guess in the next budget year for the town. So, discussion of the comprehensive plan. What's the,
Well, just to go back to Greenway funding,
Okay.
they meet every quarter.
right,
So, and the town has actually received a Greenway planning grant in the past. But I think that this is a council grant, I'm not on board of the council, so I wouldn't be voting on this, but they would, I think, look very favorably on this.
I guess this really, maybe this is my agenda item by accident. I guess the Greenway might better, more appropriately be, put it under number 3, the discussion of funding sources.
Oh, so you don't actually have that, right?
No, Nancy found it as a, hey, look, I saw those master plan stuff in the minutes. Here you go, look, this town got 15,000, it was Saugerties, I think, for a joint town village. Yeah, Rebecca, you had something?
Yes, the applications must be postmarked by December 11, 2013, if we were interested. December 11, 2013.
So that is one potential source of some of the
Do
funding.
we have anybody that can write this grant?
Well,
You can?
No.
Raising your hand.
I'm absolutely not volunteering for that. I did call Mary Frank from Saugerties, just to find out some of the details about what happened, because she's a village clerk. It was a comparable conversation. She did give me the contact information for the people that they work with, so certainly if the board is interested, we can make a phone call.
Well, one of the things that we talked about and have talked about for the last year, and there's budget money in the budget for, but no person has been hired as a grant writer.
The town does does have grants writer, so
You do.
it's possible.
These grants are not horribly complicated, and I can get you copies of
Are you
proposals for
volunteering
these.
to write a draft?
No, but I won't be
Kitty's
here
right.
by the
This
time
is-
this happens.
This is not the
But-
level of it.
But you can, you can ask the people in Saugerties just for a copy of their grant, and it's pretty boilerplate.
And also, just to add, like Kitty did say, the town prior, when, a few years back, 3 years back or something,
More
the town, 3, 4 years back, the town had gotten a planning grant for a comprehensive master plan. And so we probably could find the copy of that plan and also just look at, what they did that was successful, and then look at the Saugerties one, which was, a joint plan. And I'm sure, we could have a little subcommittee that just sort of looks to, make that grant application. Not a big deal.
There's also another complication to it. It's a reimbursement basis for this grant, which would mean our, joint boards, joint budgets would need to have the funding to cover the expenses, and then we would get reimbursed. And it's no more than 50%. So it could be a matching grant, but we would have to pay for it up front, which means we would have to have it in our budgets, and then we would have to meet that deadline.
I'm always in favor of seeking money to reimburse anything we do. But I think this certainly is not an appropriate discussion at the moment for what we're supposed to be talking about.
The funding of a joint comprehensive plan is not an appropriate topic for what we're
Well-
doing. What did I miss? So, or I guess Sally's not gonna answer Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Can you
didn't
clarify that,
really.
Sal?
Yeah, what you said sounds contradictory. The fact that our topic of discussion is a joint comprehensive plan and the funding of such, I guess I'm not sure how grant money to fund exactly what we're talking about is inappropriate.
Well, it's going in reverse. We've already agreed to do a joint master plan. Now, if we want to go out and try and find money to reimburse us for that which we've agreed to do, I'm in favor of. But it seems to me 2 is too soon before 3.
No, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. I realized that agenda item 2, which is the Greenway thing, appropriately belongs under number 3.
Okay.
A broader discussion of funding, because Tom's resolution has a specific source in the village, and there's other options that I imagine would be on the table. Tom?
I was aware of this particular potential source before. Perhaps I was even made aware of it by Nancy. But I think that I was made aware of it sometime earlier by the former planner. And I know that the former planner had intended to seek additional grants, since there are, I don't know if it's funny to suggest that,
It's funny, yes.
but,
it is.
but may I say that I know that there are other sources to support planning as well. But in the absence of an appropriate person to seek those funds, we need to establish that there are funds from which we can draw now to support comprehensive planning. Having supported comprehensive planning, we can then seek additional funds to supplement that or to return those funds to budget lines from which
You said it much
They
better than
haven't
I said it.
So we should pay out of pocket before we look for grants. Susan?
Well, I just want to get for clarification purposes.
silly man.
If I remember correctly, at your last village meeting, you guys actually voted to fund the comprehensive plan, and you identified the
We
lines that
did.
you were going to take your money from.
We did.
Not the lines, I believe, because that's
We
what
did.
Tom's resolution is here. That's why we have this on the agenda.
Okay. Well, all I know is, how you have to transfer your money and do what you have to. I'm just trying to sort of say that you guys, as a board, voted, some yes, some no, but voted to say, yes, we're going to do a comprehensive plan and we're going to fund it. And then funding sources were identified, how you then appropriately do your work. We as a town, way back when we talked about this with the two, together a couple of months ago, we had we have money in our B fund that we haven't spent on certain things that we allocated, because we said we were gonna start in November. So we allocated money from our B fund that we said would be available to pay for this, and then I put money into next year's budget for us to then make up the difference.
So, what, 37,000 something?
No, I think it's 25 for you and 25 for us, I think.
26.
26, 26.
No, I mean, I just finished reading the town budget, I may be confusing with another one.
Well, we have a grants writer too.
And maybe I'll roll into one.
So,
I've
no, it's
got
not
a
all
bunch
digital.
of the grants right here. I can
Okay,
forward them to you.
Okay, so anyway,
It's
no,
pretty
we
boilerplate.
hired a grants writer that's in a B fund, but then we also have a separate line in the B fund for the master plan, okay? And so we as a board identified where the money comes from, you as a board identified where the money came from. I think what does end up happening, so we've all agreed, we want to spend the money to do this, we want to do a comprehensive plan. What ends up happening is most of these grants anyway, regardless, you have to spend the money and then you get reimbursed, so regardless, we're committing to the money, then we'll apply for the grants. The fact that we're committing to the money is the match that we have to put into the grants in order for us to be able to get them. And so as we move forward through this process, we can make a commitment to look for and apply for whatever grants we can, and then hopefully we'll get reimbursed. But at the end of the day, I think both boards made the commitment to the fact that we thought the comprehensive plan was really important, and we identified the sources of funding.
So I'm confused now, because what you're saying is the exact opposite of what Tom was saying, unless I'm missing
I don't
something.
believe so.
No.
Well, let me ask my question, you'll find out. Excuse me, Tom.
Yes.
I'd appreciate it if the insults would stop.
Well, then don't smirk when I'm speaking.
Mm.
And then I will not insult you when you're speaking.
We'll find
I
out.
appreciate that
We'll find out.
courtesy from you.
We'll find out. So Susan, you're saying that the money that was allocated, both in the town budget, in whatever the line that is, and in whatever the budget lines, doesn't really matter which lines they're in the village. Part of that, the idea for that was to use that as matching funds for grants to cover the cost of some of this master plan.
No, what I'm saying is that we as two boards said, yes, we want to do a comprehensive plan, and then we as two boards said we're willing to spend money and identify money in our budgets to do it. So that's step one, okay? Even if we never get a grant, we all agreed, we want to do this because we think it's that important.
Mhm.
Number two is, now that we've made that agreement, if we see grants like the Greenway grant and others, when we do the application, we can confidently say we've got the matching money because it's 50% reimbursement, because we've already allocated as two boards to spend the money. And so you already have the match because we've already identified the money in our
But
budgets.
if we have a contract with some person X, you can't then take away money from that contract.
We just get reimbursed.
Here's
Get
the-
reimbursed.
Jean, what am I missing?
Okay. It's really quite simple. The two boards together
Mhm.
have committed funding for the entire project.
Right.
However, if we were to get a Greenway grant or a Greenway grant plus any other grant or
Right.
whatever it is, we just bring in the money and we divide it.
It's just reimbursement.
In other words, the vouchers will go out for the reimbursement, we'll get the reimbursement, and then we'll split the money.
We would have to be awarded the grant in order for that to
Yes,
happen.
exactly.
So,
But in the meantime, the two municipalities have already agreed to fund it in whole. So it's not like we need the grant funding to supplement what we had originally discussed.
All right. I think I understand, even if I think it's that process, I think I understand what it is. I have two
I would
questions.
agree.
I have two questions I brought up for the village board I'd like to get the town board's opinion on. And I think, I'm not sure if I saw it in his hand, but, no, okay, sorry. Two questions. One is, what was it, Susan, just a couple years, 5 years ago, whatever it was, when the town hired a consultant to do a master plan? It was fairly recently.
2009.
2009, so yeah, so 5 years ago, just about 5 years ago, 4 years ago. It cost about $60,000 to $70,000,
85.
I would like-
$85,000, and hold on, let me
But I'm just
finish.
saying, talk to Kitty.
Yeah, no,
Kitty.
apparently $85,000 for that master plan. And I don't, the most recent number I have for the village was in 2006, we had gotten a price from John Behan, who we all know, you know, they've been plan, he's done everything, for 60 grand to do the master plan for the village. So I don't know whether, it doesn't make sense to me that you would just add those together and get the total cost, because obviously there's, you know, gonna be overlap. but if we're looking at, and 60 grand in 2006 is probably about 85,000 now.
It was 85,000 net.
Yeah, well, we're looking at, you know, a $60,000 to $100,000 project, and we're talking about budgeting 50 grand for this. We're obviously not planning to spend enough money to do it at all, let alone do it well. So one conversation we have to have is an actual real cost for this. And the second question that I brought up to the village board and was voted down on, but I'd like the town board's opinion on, is, you know, given the number of planners out there, given the number of good planners we've all worked with over the years, doesn't it make more sense to put out an RFP to see what planners are interested in doing this, what their resumes and backgrounds are, and how much they're gonna cost? Since there is no way for us to know how much this costs, except to know that it's much more than what we're planning on, it seems to me that getting an RFP, even just 2 or 3 prices, is the only financially sound way to go forward. No matter who we end up hiring in the end, you know, whether it's Kurt, whether it's John Behan, whether it's Saratoga Associates, whether it's, well, I can't think of another planner right now, but you know what I mean, Susan Lipstein or whoever, you know, shouldn't we see how much this is gonna cost before we decide how much we're gonna spend?
So
Actually,
you're
because
asking.
we've already had this conversation, I'd like to hear, do I sound crazy? Am this
Well-
like, am I off base?
Wait,
Let
can
him
I,
go first.
just because I had the longest and most painful experience with our previous master plan, where we did do an RFP and got, you know, I wasn't part of the process that actually went with the final consultant that we did choose.
You mean interviewing them and all that?
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
But we were presented with the final choice, which was a company from Buffalo, and who had extremely high references and recommendations, and didn't know a thing about our community. And so the RFP was very complete, the response was very complete and very impressive, and we got, in my opinion, a completely useless product. So I'm not sure that the RFP process will guarantee that we'll get the product that we want. The reason I was really interested in the joint planning idea was that it was presented by village trustees with a professional who already has a lot of experience with one of our municipalities and the problems in its zoning and the relationship between the town and the village. And, you know, the town has been struggling for a long time with Woodland Pond and Lent Drive, a classic example of why we need to start planning together. And what was so appealing to me about that presentation was that we're already starting with somebody who is completely familiar with half of what's wrong or needs to be changed. So I don't think that, my experience with RFPs is that it doesn't, well, may I just finish? My experience with RFPs is that in the case that we really went throughout the state of New York, we did not end up with a plan that was right for us. However, we do have a shell of something. We have 350 pages, which could certainly be used as a starting point. So I don't think we have to be looking at $150,000. There are definitely components of the $85,000 plan that we paid for and the plan that you've got that I think an experienced person can put together and then find out where the gaps are and where the problems are that we need to fix.
I think everything you said is dead on, except for one small flaw, which is that there are, not plural, multiple professionals with much longer experience in our community than some of the folks we've been talking about. Obviously, again, Behan Planning always comes up because he did the town open space plan and the build-out analysis and the village, they've done lots of work for us. The Peace Park Exchange across the
Actually,
street.
they didn't do the open space plan. It was a different.
Behan Planning did the town open space plan. They did.
Well,
And for example, Gilmore Planning, David Gilmore, who lives up in Bonford View, Susan Blickstein, who's both does complete streets work for this state, as well as teaches at Vassar. So this is why I'm curious and interested in RFP, because even if we put in that requirement that you want some familiarity with our community, we have multiple choices. And I think it behooves us to look at all of our choices before making a decision.
And I just think too, and this is because I'll speak from this, well, the same thing is that Kitty and I both shared, I came in a little after Kitty in the planning process, and Kitty and I unfortunately were always at the losing end of the boat trying to get some changes. It got to the point, again, the RFP was written very succinct, and we could not get them to really hold to it. We couldn't get them to come down for meetings. I'm glad you kind of changed it to that we do have a shell. You said it was completely useless.
Right.
It's not completely useless,
That's true.
whereas there were some very, very productive meetings, community gathering meetings. In fact, I even remember Susan being at a couple of them, because a few of them, there was all about 10 people showed up too. We had a couple big ones. There was one at Bosse's, I do remember, which was very, I believe that's the one Susan was even at. There was one at SUNY that I also went to that was very well attended. So we do have a lot of data. So this also, where I feel confident in about the price we're throwing, and this comes into discussion I had with Tom, with Tom Rocco, is that, and he works with consultants for a lot of his professional career, is that we know what per hour you pay for the work. A lot of the work we do understand we are going to have to do. When I say we, these two joint boards, members of the community as volunteers, and also us volunteering the services, or actually I apologize, using the services of some of our town employees to produce material. You're absolutely right. We're not going to be handed a 350-page document at the end of this. I don't believe, I know Tom and I know that's not what we expect at the end of this. What we expect at the end of this is something that we will be able to use, again, as a master plan to go forward. Also probably help us finally get a new master plan in the town, which is a goal I would like to see in the next few years. And then...
Isn't that what this is for?
Well, this would be a joint one. You're still going legally, and then the lawyers could speak about it later. You actually would have to have an individual master plan too.
Is that true, Joe?
Any,
I'm sorry, I
No,
want
that's
to
okay.
clarify as we move forward. Let us stop some arguments before they happen.
chair's missing a wheel, I think
Yeah.
someone's trying to sabotage.
No, that's why I moved that out of my office.
I
It's-
thought you were falling over
Yeah,
there.
and it's a joint meeting, so I don't know which board I should be most worried about. But technically, in any planning document adopted by a board qualifies as under the umbrella of a master plan concept. They can all be, so for instance, if you are a coastal community and you adopt a planning document that talks about how you're gonna handle, development along your coast, if you have a significant wetlands, presence, and you adopt a planning document about that, and then you have a separate document that's actually called a comprehensive plan, the truth is they are all, from a legal perspective, master planning documents that have to be looked to anytime, and I think I know where you're going, Jeff, and I'll get to it. Anytime a new zoning change is proposed, one of the elements of considering whether to adopt that zoning change is to confirm that it conforms to your master planning documents. Because the idea is that either in the near term or in the long term, a little bit at a time, your community, the laws you adopt will conform to those planning documents. So you would have, both boards would have to adopt any joint plan, and then both boards could adopt other planning documents. What I think Jeff, and I'm sorry, Jason, what I think Jeff was about to get to was, the master plan doesn't really change anything. When the master plan is adopted, or whenever you choose to act on any existing plan, it's what really changes things is you then move to the step of adopting new zoning requirements that conform to the plan. And that is something that each community would have to do separately.
So can I just simplify what I think Jeff is asking, what I think you're saying? If we come up with a joint master plan, the town can adopt it as our master plan, you can adopt it as your master plan. We both have our master plans, even though it's a joint plan.
Right,
And
right.
that's some of the best news I just got tonight then.
And also, also, as a corollary to that, Jeff, if I'm understanding you right, Joe, the transportation and land use study, which was adopted by the town and village separately in '06, is part of our master plan because
That's
it's
correct.
a land use plan that
It
was already
wasn't adopted by the village.
It was in 2000, in December of 2006. Yeah.
The Mayor Duncan and his board never.
I was the one. I was mayor when we adopted it. Adopted it in December of '06 or
But that's
January
not
of '07.
germane to this.
But it assume for even if you disagree with me, assume it was adopted as an example. That is what Joe's talking about.
It's part of your
our
master plan for your community, and by the way, not to prolong the discussion, but for that reason, part of any comprehensive plan review, by whoever does it for you both, should take into account existing planning documents and specifically speak to whether we want to go forward with those recommendations, should we modify them, otherwise they're all kind of out there, you need to make clear what your
But may I
intent is.
make a clarification? In August 15th, a master plan proposal was presented to both boards by Mr. Lavala. Those members of the board who have much more expertise in planning and past history of planning were very excited about what he was proposing. So I think we are way beyond whether we need an RFP or not. That's been asked and answered.
But by the village,
The
not by the
real
town.
question that needs to be answered for Rebecca, because we made the action with a friendly amendment out of respect for her request, and that is that Mr. Ariel has reviewed the agreement and does not find it wanting in any way.
Can I just ask for clarification, Sally? Kurt didn't make, Mr. LaValle didn't make the presentation on his own. He was asked by members of the village board to consider doing a joint master, the joint master plan was,
Being
the
proposed.
village board members said we would like to do a joint master plan. The village said to Kurt, certain village board members, we would like you to take this on, and so therefore he was willing, and he was at the meeting, at the request of village board members, who then, when we spoke about this, he got up and then talked to us about it. But I just want the clarification that he did not come up with this and present it to us. It was at the urging of certain village board members. He was brought forward and offered, and we all agreed, at least those people that night, that we were very excited and willing to engage in this. And I just think that's a very important clarification.
And as
that's-
I've said before, there is a memo from July 1st to all board members of both boards proposing that we do this
Right.
together.
But I just wanted to be clear that it wasn't,
Okay.
he took it on him, I just want to make sure
So what
that
are-
I'm right, that he didn't take this on.
What
that you
action
are-
are we,
We're still
Are we-
discussing the merits. Hold on, Aaron.
I have merits.
Hold on, Jeff, I have one question for you, or Tom, or both, whoever. Since we know how much master plans have cost in the past, 85,000, 60,000 8 years ago, how did you come up with the numbers in this?
Well, again, and I'm also, we're going to be using a lot of the existing data and data sets that the town currently has, and also are under the understanding that we will not, as I said, be getting the document that you would get from a complete master plan, which would be probably 350 pages.
So is it gonna
of
cost us
data.
more to finish that work later?
Well, no, absolutely not.
So
The
are we getting a
heirs-
master plan or not?
The heirs of the ways of a master plan, and when you write an RFP, that you almost write something that's going to be of encyclopedic value, and that's not what's needed. I think Joe helped answer one of my questions, which is good. The real work of a master plan comes when you go to write your zoning. So the master plan that we don't need it. For example, there's one chapter that actually even starts, you probably even find amusing if you read it, and it starts out with the town should dissolve the village. Well, that's all very nice and well, but it showed the complete lack of knowledge of the people writing it.
But-
There's another one about that how we should be improving the sewer plant. Well, we don't own the sewer plant, so.
You're drifting from my question.
I'm not drifting. I'm drifting as, you're right, I'm drifting the same exact way that a master plan that you write an annoying RFP for would absolutely drift you. Our goal for this is to have someone that's gonna help guide us through the master plan process. I want to be there holding someone's hand and having them hold my hand through this process. That's how you can get it at a rate of about what a.
But how did you come up with the rate?
And then Tom can answer how.
That's what, I mean, it's an honest question. How did you come up with this rate?
No, this is part of a debate. You asked for, you said this entire discussion was to ask for input from town members. And since then, you have dominated the conversation. You're inquiring, you're questioning everything I said. Get your input from them, and then let's proceed to the next step.
If they ask, well, look, Tom, pay
Let's-
attention to what's happening. I asked a question. I didn't get, it wasn't answered to my knowledge. He referred to you, and you insult me. So I'll ask Jeff
I'm not
again.
insulting you, I'm saying that you set
Tom,
an
Can you hand
agenda,
off to me,
and you're
please?
not allowing the town board members to respond
I'm
and then to
asking
finish this part
questions
of
that,
the
and when I
conversation.
don't get an answer to them,
Okay,
Then
May
you're
I
dominating the
I'd like an
conversation.
answer to the
the
question.
question to the town board was, is the town board comfortable?
How do we come up with a number?
Well, no, that
Where'd the
came up
number
later.
come from?
No,
Who
no,
came up with
no,
it?
I know, but the first question really was, which Kitty never really got to completely answer, was, is the town board comfortable with moving forward to hire a planner without doing an RFP process? Of which Kitty then proceeded to explain what the process they went through, why she didn't think an RFP was necessary, why she actually found the whole process disappointing, and then in terms of the next thing, of the merits of why she would like to proceed the way we're planning to go, she's never had the opportunity to finish what she wanted to say.
So
In terms of answering that
Oh, I
question,
apologize, Kitty. I
Okay.
didn't realize you weren't Tom.
So on the merit side, we have over the last few years adopted things like a farmland protection plan, which happened after the master plan consultant finished his work, but will become part of the final plan. That's going to be just adding it, physically saying this is now part of a joint master plan. So you get the benefit of our farmland protection plan, just, you get that. And I remember when Tom was working with the volunteer master plan committee, getting lots of memos and emails about things you were doing, we would just get that. So we don't have to reinvent a lot of these wheels. You've done a lot of work, we've done a lot of work. We just need somebody to put them together in one plan.
And how did you arrive at how much that's gonna cost?
I'll try to, I don't know if you want to answer it.
No, you
whatever.
can-
I'll just try to answer from the perspective that when we originally went down this route, because the planner was working for the village when this was offered to us, we came up with one cost because you were giving the planner to the process, and we said we'd come up with X amount of money to handle legal fees and stuff, and that was sort of the original agreement, okay? Then when things changed and we decided we would try to now go ahead from a contract perspective, if I understand correctly, we had a joint executive session. Rebecca was there. You weren't, Jason. That's when you were. You took the
Sure.
time. Rebecca was there. We sat, we talked, and we sort of calculated how much time we thought it would take, what we thought a cost per hour, in a sense, was a fair amount of, a fair cost to offer somebody. And basically, we said it would take we wanted a year contract, that we thought it would take X amount of work. We thought based on sort of going rate, based on Tom's experience and other people's experience of what they thought was a fair offer, that's how we came up with the cost. And again, part of that was based on the fact that so much work has already been done, so you're not sort of going out and just doing, starting from scratch, because there is so much work that's already been done relative to the farmland protection, the $75,000 master plan that we have, your work, that we felt that to get to where we need to go, that was what the cost could be, bring it all together, and we felt comfortable with that, and that's
So
how that was.
none of us being planners, the decision was made by non-professionals to set a price for something we don't know the cost of.
Happens all the
Let's just
time.
can we just take that as a statement? Just
Maybe.
leave that as a-
Unfortunately.
You know, I'd rather just leave that as a statement.
Yeah,
And I think we're getting,
Well, hold on.
yeah.
Right.
Here's the thing, I think that the cost would be significantly more than what we came up with. So I think that I'm comfortable with the cost, because I gotta say, after what Kitty explained with the $85,000 deal and some of the other, bringing in people from outside, when they have a lot of experience, that's fine. What they don't get is that we have a state university, we have we have significant off-campus housing, okay, as opposed to if it were more contained. Okay, these are all things that really have to be taken into consideration. It's someone who really has to understand, and the fact that we need to share, the village and the town need to share. And so in that case, I'm not really comfortable getting someone from Rochester or Buffalo, or I'm not, because they can create a beautiful proposal and then they write up this plan that's not relevant to your particular domicile.
We have a very long agenda.
Right.
Can we take action
So-
on, and instead of just sitting here,
Yes,
we've
if we
taken no
want to
action,
go
we've
for
been
the
here an hour
Greenway
and 20
grant,
minutes.
If we want to go for a Greenway
What?
grant,
Mhm.
if we want to go for a Greenway grant, it would be great if each board could, agree on some kind of resolution, because that's the first thing that will have to be submitted
We
by
have
December 11th.
passed the IMA. The only question that was left on the IMA was whether our attorney had reviewed it and found any problem.
But-
He has reviewed it.
But what I saw, Sally, just to be clear, and it does have some terms in it, what I saw was a resolution. I mean, is there a contract? I haven't seen a
Yeah, I thought he
contract.
read the IMA.
There is an agreement
An
that we
IMA.
each accept this as an IMA formulated as a resolution, that each board accepted.
So I think what you're confused about, maybe possibly, Joe, I'm sorry, am I right?
Yeah, no, I'd
Is it-
like to-
Okay, so what happened was, and I think I know what you're getting to, okay? It started off that we agreed we were gonna do this comprehensive plan. We asked Tom and Jeff to do an IMA, so the two
Right.
municipalities are saying, we're doing this together, we're in this together, and we're sharing the cost. You guys voted on it at the last meeting, okay? We technically agreed to go to this, but we can take tomorrow night action to vote on it. We can take it
do it
tonight.
now.
We can do it now, okay? And once we take action on this, and then if we make an action tonight to hire a particular person, then yes, the boards have to enter into, we have to draft the
Right,
contract.
I just wanna make clear, yeah,
Yes,
I haven't
then
seen-
a contract has to be drafted,
Yeah.
and then the two boards have to
Right.
agree to the contract.
just-
So that is, so it's the IMA that Rebecca had said had not gotten looked at.
Which was-
Sally
But
made
it-
sure that you saw the IMA.
There is
No, but I
IMA.
didn't see, I mean, just so we're clear, I want to use the right terms, and I'm not trying to deny, I mean, I've seen the resolution. I
Right,
know what you guys
that's
are
what we're
talking
talking
about.
about.
But that's not an intermunicipal agreement, just to be clear. You may mean that it's an agreement
Right.
by two municipalities
Right.
on a resolution, but it's not an intermunicipal agreement. I mean, just, I think we all,
Okay,
What
right?
step can we
In other words,
take
you don't have a
tonight?
contract
Okay.
yet,
Not
What
yet.
step do
We
we
have
need
to-
and
to
you'd
take
have to
tonight?
approve that contract,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
We know.
I just want to make sure that
Yeah,
we're.
no one said it was a contract.
Contract with
Well,
with our.
I don't want to belabor the point, but an IMA is, it's a term of art that means something.
Why can't we just agree at a joint meeting tonight that we will
Hire somebody to have.
hire
No.
Kurt
It did not go
Paula
to a vote
to-
because you and I did not.
That a contract will be drawn.
Why can't we just do that? I mean,
And then we intervene.
the sooner we can get the, and it would be really great to do it at a joint meeting.
Exactly.
On behalf of the village, I'm going to move that since we agreed on a resolution of agreement to work together,
Okay, there's two conversations.
Yeah, Kevin, please. I'm sorry.
I'm suggesting that we agree tonight on the material terms that can be incorporated into a more formal agreement.
that's what I was
That's
trying
what I
to
think you'd
do.
have to do.
Okay.
Do you want to move it first?
I'm gonna let Kitty move it.
Well, I'm gonna need some coaching here,
You don't
but,
need coaching, you got plenty of experience.
I would
so,
also,
yes.
I'm sorry, can I
But
just
for the
make-
town,
okay. Everyone is under an assumption that something happened with an agreement.
At the table in Susan's office.
Yes.
No, at
No,
the
that
town board
we never
meeting.
took, we never took. no, no.
Exactly.
No, we didn't take a vote in executive session.
No, I know,
So
exactly.
So what happened was, so again, at a meeting that you were not at when this first came up, okay? No, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter, I'm just saying when.
I'm listening
I'm
to
just
you.
saying when this, I'm just trying to say, at a meeting, when it was
You wanna
agreed that we were gonna
hire
move
Woodhouse.
together to try and do a comprehensive plan.
Right?
That was the first step, okay? Then other things happened.
Joint
Then we had an executive
services to the
session
town village.
to discuss
Right.
At a cost
how we we're gonna move forward.
just,
We all tentatively sort of, some of us agreed, some of us didn't, to move forward, okay? But no action was taken because it was an executive session. Then what happened next was you as a village board at your meeting took action, and now we're here together to figure out how we're gonna take the next step to take action.
I just need for a point of order, Sally has started to move something.
Mhm. Thank you, Kate.
But I would like to make the point.
I'm going to continue with my motion, which was interrupted.
I know I am.
I move,
She and I are both right. Sorry, go ahead.
I really would appreciate a little respect if I'm trying to make a motion and not have all the sidelines. I'd like to move that the village board appoint Kurt Lavala as the planner to implement the joint comprehensive plan agreed to by both boards at a salary of $1,000 a week, pending a contract be drawn with Mr. Lavala and that the insurance question is resolved.
For a term of a year?
Okay.
For a term of a year?
If,
Not to exceed 26, not to exceed 52 weeks.
I-
Joe
I-
has something to say.
yeah, I just wanna,
I need a second.
Second,
Go ahead, yeah, and
for
then.
purposes of discussion.
Right. I understand exactly where you're going. I think you finished in the right place, which is to say that you would need a contract because this is an independent,
I
this is a
did say
consultant,
that.
right? Two words in that motion I think we have to be careful about. I don't think it's an appointment, right? Because it's a consulting agreement,
Hire
right? So
a consultant,
that you
okay.
might engage a consultant.
Thank you.
And I don't think it's a salary. And I think we all understand that, but I just
And
want to
a
make clear.
compensation of?
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
so
A
change.
a contract in the amount of
Contract in the amount of a compensation
52.
Was it
of
$52,000?
$1,000 a week for 52, not to exceed 52 weeks, I think is what we said. Okay.
All right, and that.
Thank you for that.
Thomas seconded that for discussion. Oriana or Rebecca, you have any discussion? I would just like to note that this is not how the village normally hires our contractors. Normally, what we do is we pay them, I believe, 25 or 50% upfront, and then 50% upon completion of the work, rather than a weekly stipend. Also, Joe, how will this affect the fact that Kurt, Mr. Lavala is collecting unemployment from the village at the moment? Would this affect that?
Well, I would say I'm
It's an
not.
additional cost to us, I want to be sure.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable opining, although I'm happy to give an opinion on it.
Okay.
In short.
writing tomorrow is
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, I mean,
Just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, that would have to do with his obligations to report other
Right,
income that he's making.
It's not a legal opinion, but it's an employer opinion.
Yeah.
He has to report the days he
Right,
works.
right.
To
I've never been able to collect unemployment, I don't know how
Department of Labor.
that well.
He has to,
When he
he has
reports
to
it,
report
he
his
doesn't
numbers.
So,
collect.
so that won't, okay, so that's not, I just want to make sure that additional cost is not a hidden cost
No,
like this.
I just wanna, I just
Come
wanna,
on, I'm just-
I just
I gotta
wanna,
ask.
no, that was a fair question to ask, but, and I also,
I have a motion on the floor
Yeah, I'm-
for the village.
I would like to have, see if you would accept as a friendly amendment, given the suggestion of the mayor.
And what is that?
And so here, I'll try this, because I've already tried it. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and treasurer are authorized and directed to allocate $18,000 from a combination of consolidation funds and/or the unused proportion of the salary and benefits of a full-time planner, and that these funds be distributed to the town of New Paltz for this purpose as follows: 25% by October 30th, 2013, 25% by January 31st, 2014, after an interim report of progress has been received by village trustees, 25% by March 31st, 2014, after a second interim report of progress has been received, 25% by May 30th, 2014, with an understanding that the remaining $8,000 towards the $26,000 will be allocated in the new fiscal year, and that both a third interim report will be forthcoming and a serviceable draft comprehensive plan will be provided to the village and town boards by October 30th, 2014.
I don't see that as a friendly amendment. I think it's a very good amendment, but I think it's a separate vote.
I just want to make sure that none of our consultants get paid the full amount until we've seen and are happy with the work product. That's all.
Okay,
We would have a
If that does
serviceable.
that, then.
It's got an $8,000 holdback.
Okay.
are you comfortable with that as a friendly amendment to my motion?
You're the only one who can decide that, Sally.
Yep.
Well, no, I'm asking the clerk if it's,
I'm happy to enter it in the
Okay,
board.
I'll accept it. I'll accept it.
Okay, but
Tom, can I have?
can you just read that again, because at this point now, even though before you guys vote on it, it then ends up somewhat impacting how, because you're sort of paying us at different periods of time, so I don't understand how that impacts us in terms of the money we have
I
to pay.
understand.
So I'm like completely like,
Well, this is new news. I took,
yes, it is.
Jason and I both, and maybe others, received a message from Nancy Brown
No.
saying how much money there is available and what the usual procedure for allocating those resources are. I took that memo and and a half hour before coming here, I crafted this. And
Yeah,
this,
Now, maybe just hand it to her. so
Well, I'm
she
just
can-
saying, I don't understand what it means to us when we, in
well,
terms of how we.
it
Well,
means.
I
it's
think
quarterly
it'll
payments,
probably
which
be
is
that
what
we will-
Nancy
But we don't
recommended change.
have, we don't have 4 quarters to go in this fiscal year, so.
Yeah.
No, we just have to lay the money out front, that's all. I mean, it's okay, we just like the money out front, that's
We
all.
No,
don't
we're doing
have,
it, why wouldn't we do it?
we don't have 4 quarters.
I understand that.
We have a new fiscal year,
You have this, you have.
and it would require additional action. in
This
that.
sets out progress payments based on reports.
It's a progress report.
I understand that.
Eat into everything we have.
So you can allocate the money,
That would be built
Immediately,
into the
God
contract.
knows how many we get and how much
I
we get.
understand that there are other issues.
You gotta be sure it's agreed. We'll do it a different way.
That would be built into the
That's how they do
contract.
it, we could do it differently.
I'll make
Your opinion
Okay, good.
about why doesn't this,
Why isn't that the contract?
I understand it's not kind, but why is this not, which is incorporated in this resolution,
right?
not a significant step that leads us to contractual relationship with them?
Expanding.
Well,
Because they can do for us,
yeah, no, it is a significant step.
Right.
But you don't have an agreement with a consultant until you have an agreement with a consultant. I mean, in other words, this.
No, but we have to have the agreement together in order to produce
I
that.
have no problem with what you're doing, and Kevin will deal with it from the town's perspective. The only thing that I would ask to be changed is you say starting October 30th,
yes.
and we haven't even drafted a contract and approved the contract, so
Yeah.
however you change those dates to reflect reality.
Well,
is what
that's why we're
asking.
having a
What about
discussion.
January 1st, so it matches the town fiscal year?
December 1st.
Quarterly payment, I was saying January 1st, because that's the first day of the fiscal year.
Is that the budget?
And that's when we start the work.
That's silly. You get 25% in October and you get 25% in January. This is silly. What are you haggling over?
I'm just saying for them,
We're not.
okay, I'm not saying.
I hear haggling.
No, my only concern was because we have.
That can be
a
addressed in
contract.
contractual
They're making a
language.
motion to start paying the town for a
She's
project
right.
that we have not even entered into a
Right.
contract for.
We're not gonna have the contract done in 7 days.
So all I'm just asking, you
So
can make
let's
that
say
motion, that's fine.
November 15th.
I'm just saying.
When,
We're
what,
gonna get,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
finish your vote, get your
Okay.
vote, but make it November 15th.
well,
Make it November 15th.
all right,
At a time to be determined by the village attorney, at a schedule in the IMA.
no. I'm going to amend my motion to be effective November 15th.
For the first payment to be effective November 15th.
How about when the contract is?
Upon signing the contract.
Yeah.
Why don't you settle
That's a good idea.
Why
don't you just settle
just
in
the required?
So it would be the mayor and the supervisor.
I said, how about upon signing the contract?
Will you recommend?
You mentioned.
Yeah.
Contract with the
It's
consultant.
contract.
The consultant, the mayor, and the supervisor would all have to sign.
Okay, will you sign the contract?
I sign every contract that's legally approved by the board.
But you
No,
will
it's
sign
us.
this one
Okay.
with,
And
The,
then
the attorney
according
has
to the treasurer.
I can't
recommended
believe you're asking that.
that
well. you
on
have
the
the sole
insurance part,
authority To hire
it
and
say
hire consultants.
with
No, not
the consultant carrying the
Stop it.
required
Stop it.
insurance,
Yes, a yes would be.
producing
I just said
said
yes.
documents
When- how many-
to
I said I
both
sign every contract
the
legally.
town board
with
and the village
always
board.
have.
To the satisfaction of the town board and the village board, that he
Yeah.
carried.
Jason?
Did you get that, Katie?
Okay, I'm gonna ask for one, I'm sorry, Jason, sure, please. Can you ask for just one, can we have one conversation? So, can
Right.
we? there's a lot
And
of
the
cross-
discussion is on the village side
That's
right
okay.
now.
I just, there's a lot of cross
And
conversations.
we've
that I'd
been
like-
interrupted.
Okay, so you have made changes to
The
be,
amendments, and,
Yes,
and
okay.
to date, to this point, what they are is
Yeah.
Tom's,
Have Kate reread it.
well, she's not gonna be able to reread it. I mean, maybe, but let me, I'll state it and then we'll see.
Okay.
There is Sally's original motion. There was Tom's friendly amendment, which Sally finds acceptable, except for, after discussion, the one change to November 15th as a
Right,
change.
effective November 15th.
Sally and I have, Sally's original motion also mentioned the insurance issue, which I think is wise, because that's another thing that Nancy has opined on and talked with our insurance carrier about. Sally's suggestion now is that the motion be further amended to require that that in the contract, the consultant be required to carry the necessary insurance acceptable to the village and the town board. Is that?
That's it, for me.
That's your right, that's the motion.
May I speak to that?
Are we ready? Yeah.
No, I want to speak to that. That's a condition of, if you want, hiring any consultant. I don't think that that is necessary for this resolution. That's a condition that would prevail whether we pass any resolution now or not. It's got to carry insurance.
It's a condition that I would put in the employment contract, so that they sign it.
Motion.
Right, I would say it's not relevant to that, maybe Joe and Kevin disagree with me, but this is an agreement between the town and the village, whereas the insurance is an agreement between the contractor and the municipal entities, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to go with the legal advice and leave the motion as it is.
Okay, could you just tell me what that November 15th date was?
That was the first date, so instead of by October 30th, by November 15th,
Okay, so
2013.
that was for payment?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion on the village side? All in favor?
And it's.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, that's 25%.
Good job.
Nay.
Nay.
And so.
So there were four ayes and,
no, you did three.
ayes,
Two.
2 ayes.
3 ayes to this.
On behalf of the town board, I'm going to move to hire Kurt Lavalla on behalf of the town as a consultant on a non-exclusive basis to provide planning services to the town and village for a 1-year period to develop a joint master plan at a cost of $26,000 to the town, the terms of which will be incorporated into a more formal agreement to be approved by the town board.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure.
When you say not exclusive, what is your intent by that?
That means that as a consultant, he's free to take on other work if he
Okay.
chooses to.
All right.
And if I'm sorry, did you vote? You
Yeah,
didn't.
you don't
Okay.
vote.
Did you get
Say
it?
aye.
Yeah, she didn't vote, she was
She
just.
didn't vote.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Okay, motion's so carried.
While we're all at the table, I'd like to make clear too that it's understood that we need an intermunicipal agreement that will clarify the relationship between the two municipalities, that they're jointly sharing this expense.
Should be a one-pager.
That's fine, I'm not saying it's complicated at all, but there is also an anticipation on the part of both boards that there will be a consulting agreement with this consultant, right? I just want to make clear that we're talking about both.
That's the employment contract.
I understand, right, I just don't want the terms to be used
You know,
interchangeably.
I apologize. So we're gonna have two separate, we may have multiple, there'll be two separate documents produced. One will be in a contract to which Kevin just made reference. to.
Right.
Now, you say we also need to have an IMA, which would be a one-page IMA, which will state exactly what.
Right, in other words, you're both going to
Cost,
allocate
development.
money to the expense, et cetera, et cetera.
that was done.
Right.
Well, it was a resolution.
We're gonna leave it.
So
But-
basically, my question is this.
can we take the content of the resolution and make that an IMA?
Yes.
What do we have to do to make that?
Who would do that?
I could do it, and, I mean, Kevin could do it, Joe Moriello could do it.
I
It's
will
one thing.
do it on behalf of the town.
I'll prepare it in accordance with that resolution, and
Good.
Kevin.
Could I ask you when you think you will have this done?
I will have it done by Monday. And I may have it done sooner, I just don't want to overpromise, but
Thank you very much.
And you have the resolution in your possession.
So when we get together to do rescue squad, we can act on this.
thank you, sir.
He has it
All
now.
right, so, I wasn't at the meeting, so if someone would like to approve the minutes of
I'll
September
move to
11th?
approve the minutes of September 11th and September 26th.
Is there, okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
This is
We're
on the
all
village
aye.
side.
Oh, aye.
I think we already did.
Rebecca, you were voting, weren't you? Yes,
No, you were the joint.
you were
one.
voting.
I don't know if I saw.
Yeah,
They were in your email.
You presided
I don't have my glasses.
on the 10th.
on September.
I mean, on
Well,
the
now's the
11th.
time to put stuff in front of
You
you.
presided on the 11th.
That's not fair.
Anyway, we're done
You
with
guys-
ours.
We're waiting on you.
We're trying to get clarification.
Okay.
What minutes did you just do, Jason?
What are you, September?
What?
Both.
What do you need?
Packet that calendar.
I thought we did them
Susan, in
last
the
week.
meantime, do you want to just propose that we have a joint meeting between?
Who
the
needs
town
to
meeting?
look at mine?
Just see page
Sure.
9/11.
Done.
But that's good, the next time
Oh, I
it's
can't do it
meeting.
tomorrow.
So that's why if you could give me.
We couldn't notice.
The one on the
that.
board.
Yeah, Jeff,
The
when-
next meeting we could notice,
Yeah, no, I just said Jeff could tell, because we have meeting scheduled for the budget, so.
and that would be a good night to do it,
Yeah,
and
that would be.
while they're looking at the meetings, let's try to get this
Right.
one.
Did you approve your minutes?
Figure out which ones they want.
6.
I wasn't there, so I can't object.
But the,
But have, you can have your objection, and note in the minutes.
Okay, can you guys do November 6th? What night is that, Jeff?
that's Wednesday, the 6th.
Can you do it tonight after Election Day, November 6th?
Well, is that
It's Wednesday.
your meeting, oh, for,
We're
okay.
doing, we have a special.
Okay, well, all right, you guys do the budget, so I would like to, so we can try to get things moving on one. Move that we discuss the rescue squad prior to the town board meeting on Wednesday, the
November 6th.
November 6th. Is there a second for that?
I will second
We
that.
make that a joint meeting?
And I will add what I added before, that the IMA presented by
Right.
Joe will be in our hands and
Those
acted
two
on.
items only, so we can, so you can get to your
Budget, we
budget.
have other budget stuff, yes.
It's been moved and no one seconded yet, so
Second. I'm
All
sorry,
right.
can I hear the motion again?
just to have a brief joint meeting Wednesday, the 6th, prior to the town. Wait, we don't have a meeting that
That's
night.
Tom.
do we? All right.
No, I know, but
To
you
discuss only two items, which is this IMA and the rescue squad.
Did you vote on the minutes, Town?
I need to see the, September 11th.
Pardon?
September 11th. I don't.
What about them?
Can I need to see them? I thought they had already.
Come on, they're clerks, we sent them.
The consulting agreement that we agreed to by him.
Can we do 6:30 and just make it quick?
We could either do 6:30 or we can have you guys in 7:15 or. 7:15? Okay, 7:15 we'll do it, and then we'll.
What time?
The rest of the squad to come to present to us.
What time?
7:15 on the 6th.
On the 6th?
A joint meeting for the purposes of discussing the IMA and the rescue squad at town hall at 7:15 on the 6th.
So moved, is there a
Okay.
second?
I did second you.
Oh, thank you.
Would you suggest a different time?
6:30 would be better because there's potential that the weight limit issue could be weight.
Okay.
Hearing may run.
Let's do 6:30 then, and I'll make this a point.
Okay.
6:30?
I'll change my motion to 6:30, we change the
6:30,
second.
sure.
Okay,
Any
6:30.
discussion?
6:30?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
So,
Has the-
do you have to vote on that?
No, we don't have to.
Oh, you
Has
don't
the
have to
town
meet.
board voted on minutes?
Tomorrow night schedule is 6:30, tomorrow night at our meeting.
So you guys ready with the minutes?
Okay, what next?
Have you voted on your minutes yet?
Kitty's looking to see.
The September 11th, I make a motion that we approve the joint town village meeting minutes of September 11th.
And the 26th, they're both
Well,
on.
I wasn't present
I
for
have
the
to abstain on the 11th because
You
I
weren't
wasn't present.
Right.
Okay, you were both fine with the 11th? Okay,
I don't know.
did you find anything?
I didn't find anything in here.
Okay, the 11th. Yeah, we got those.
So I abstain.
The other fine.
It was a short meeting.
I'm going to move to
Okay,
adjourn the
so-
joint meeting.
Wait,
Hold on a second.
Not yet, not yet.
We're
Hold
gonna
on.
finish,
There.
okay.
Come on,
So,
David,
Yes,
Jeff,
actually,
the-
yeah.
Kitty,
And I-
Motion
I,
carried.
the
With
11th, I
I
can't do the
moved,
26th.
I move that we approve the minutes for the September
It's already
26th
been
meeting.
moved and passed.
No, that was the 11th, now we're
Oh,
doing the
I
26th.
apologize. Go ahead.
It's okay.
You have no minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the joint meeting September 26th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion to carry.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
There's a motion on the floor to adjourn the joint meeting.
Is there
I'll
anything
second.
else, that was it?
You guys need
All
to.
right.
I'll move it,
Aye.
I move
5
it
minute
on
break.
behalf of the town.
Aye.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Motion so carried.
Thank you all for coming.
Kevin,
Wait.
Kevin,
Kevin
second.
and Kitty, Jason and Rebecca. That's great.
All right, so for the village board, I would like to, if there's anyone for public comment, and then take a 10-minute break. Let's get the public
comment
comment.
first?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's get them out of here at home.
Okay. I think they're here for
You go
agenda.
home, you go away. You're done.
Jason, I think they're here for agenda.
What?
I think they're here for agenda.
Yeah, I know Susan is, but Mike. All right, so you know what? I hereby call a 10-minute recess to reset our heads for
Good.
the next part of it. Good. It's all right. Rich, thank you. We've done the pledge, so there's a couple of last-minute requests to add things to the agenda.
The treasurer's office has requested that we add the two invoices at the table from Bernier and Larry's to the consent agenda. Also to the consent agenda, if we could make the adjustment to the holiday schedule so that the board will be meeting officially on November 13th, November 20th, and only the first meeting in December, which is the second Wednesday of the month. We will not be having a second meeting in the month of December.
Were there any objections?
That's to the consent agenda.
Yeah,
Those are
that's
two.
what I'm
What,
asking for.
what is the first thing that you asked
November
for?
13th.
Invoices from Nancy.
The Bernier and
Invoice.
Larry's at the table.
Any objections to the consent agenda?
I have no objections, I just will be out of town on the third week of November, so I cannot make a meeting on the 20th. But Katie and I spoke about that, and I told her that if everybody else wants to meet, then
So do you want it on the consent, or do you want to talk about
I just talked about it.
it? All right.
All right, I'd like to add to,
Wait, hold on,
Oh.
let's do one at a time.
Yeah.
Unless there is an objection, I'll move to add those two things to the consent agenda, as well as remove bills and claims till the end.
remove it. Okay, good.
Remove it to the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Just from the consent agenda. Any objection?
No.
Not to that.
No? All right. Then actually, I'll move the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
We haven't added things to the agenda itself.
I know, well, we just finished one of them. All right, so I know we have a couple others. Katie, you have them listed, I believe.
That's it. That's all that's.
Well, no, Katie knows that in addition to the discussion of the DEC agreement
Which is
that we have, which is
17?
number 17, which we all received from the water attorney, we have a resolution to enter into a contract with New York City Department of Environmental Protection, also drafted by the same attorney,
Okay.
to effect that contract. And I believe you all have received this already, but in case you did not carry it with you,
I have it. Katie gave us all a copy.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, we have it at the table.
So we all have copies.
Yep.
Is there a reason why that came in late? I mean, before the packet? Did we just
Mr.
get it?
Merz
When we
said,
got it.
We just got it on
yeah,
Tuesday?
Yeah.
And it has to be done before the next meeting?
yes.
Yes.
All right. Any other additions?
Yes, the short-term rental code edition
Isn't that on there?
and the
It
easement,
actually is not.
and the easement agreement with Mr. Kusana.
No.
It came in Monday morning.
Yeah. Joe, why were these things not here by Friday?
They were.
They were?
Casano and the
Oh, well-
rental?
Short-term rental, we got Monday morning.
Both these things we got Monday. They're supposed to be here Friday for the packets?
Well,
And these came from you, I believe, yes?
yeah, I had not anticipated producing the actual agreement. I was asked to produce it on Casano. I thought it was a discussion. I met with Mr. Casano. I drafted the agreement like 2 weeks ago. We
Right.
met, we had coffee, we discussed it. I thought I would be updating the board. So that's why you didn't get that one
Okay,
until
so it
Monday.
wasn't meant for the agenda.
Yes, it was on the agenda because it was said at the meeting that we discussed with Mr. Casano, we would act on it tonight. That was from a prior meeting.
I wasn't at that meeting,
Yeah.
so.
And I did follow up accordingly. It was just a matter
It's
of
in the
providing you
minutes.
the
All right,
draft
just,
contract. Yeah.
hope you understand, we need things by Friday so everyone has them.
Okay, but can I just say something?
Yes.
When the board, at a formal board meeting, asks for things to be put on agendas at a specific board meeting, we should not have to remind anybody.
I agree.
Yeah, and I apologize, I just didn't understand that you actually wanted I mean, I would have gotten, the contract had been drafted like 2 weeks before that, I actually met with Rich, so I apologize.
Just in future,
Yeah,
get
I
us
understand.
things by Thursday, actually by Thursday, not by Friday.
And we've had the short-term rental agreement since August.
All right. Any other additions to the agenda?
Are you doing the secretary to the building, the planning board, and
Yeah, actually, we should add that, because I can.
the building inspector?
We have a building inspector and a secretary.
Because Rebecca
Appointment,
just
and if
told
we
me
need-
we
And we can
need
go into
those.
executive if we need it. Appointment of building inspector and planning secretary.
Mhm.
And I'll update the board on those interviews. Carl Budman is very useful. All right, anything else?
No, but I would like to ask if we can have a change of the order of the day and do the water contract and
Yeah.
short-term
We're
rentals
gonna do
so
those
that
first.
people can go home.
Yes. All right, so I'm gonna do the, actually on Ariana's advice, the DEP contract and resolution. Tom, this is your project. You wanna make the appropriate motion?
Well, I move
And actually, I'm
that,
sorry, let me pause.
Yep.
Joe, you've seen it? Okay, I just wanna make sure that
Yep.
we're all
Can
on
we
the same
approve
page.
the agenda? I'll move to approve
Oh, I
the agenda.
apologize. I'm exhausted. All in favor?
Aye,
aye.
Thank you all for keeping this going.
all right.
Tom, please.
All right. All the board members and our attorney and the clerk have received the marked up intergovernmental agreement between the City of New York Department of Environmental Protection and the Village of New Paltz to proceed to Phase 2 exploration for fresh water. To clarify, this agreement is not an agreement to purchase anything, to build anything. It is an agreement of exploration for professional services. Everybody has the marked up copy. The marked up copy differs very little from the copy that you had previous.
Right.
There is one clause which is excluded, and a certain amount of money is added to the initial phase out of the $600,000 total potential allocation to this contract. So that is the agreement draft. The resolution that you have before you does each of the appropriate whereases indicating why we need a resolution, and then finally it resolves that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to sign that contract, subject to final approval as to form and content by special counsel for the village. Form and content means that all of the documents will be pulled together. There will no longer be notations in the margin, but that the agreement will be complete in legal form. And then we'll be ready to go as a formal contract between the City of New York and the Village of New Paltz, after which we will contract with the consultants of record, which is Clauser and Company, with subcontracts with Larios, Brinier and Larios, and Chase and Companies. So right now, I'm asking for I move
And I'll
the
second.
resolution that you have before you.
And I'll second.
All in favor, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I would like to publicly thank Tom Rocco for all his hard work on this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, short-term rentals, Joe, you wanna
Yes.
explain these? And pass those down to me?
Thanks, Dan.
See you down.
Good night.
So, the last time that we discussed this, there was a discussion about the draft that was being considered addressed the historic district very directly and specifically, since there seemed to at least be some direction to present such a provision to the board, obviously still for consideration by the board as to whether they want to do that, but that was the direction. And the other thing that was in that version of the law was to treat short-term rentals elsewhere in the village, in residential districts, as a special permit, as a point of discussion. The general consensus of the board was that they did not want to take that approach on short-term rentals, and I was asked to redraft provision, a law or multiple laws, whatever was necessary, to address the issue on a village-wide basis, and also to address it in the historic district. So what you now have before you is proposed as two laws. One is, well, two. It addresses two specific things. One is, again, a very direct prohibition of the use in the historic district. And then what it suggests is that it be permitted in the other residential districts with a set of specific, as you may know, in the code now, for certain types of uses, there are also specific design standards or specific building provisions, et cetera, when it's deemed appropriate for a certain kind of use. This could be treated the same way, such that this board could discuss what specific conditions, if any, had to be obeyed, so to speak, if you wanted to have a short-term rental. And one of the things that I've written into the law that I think may be wise, if you choose to go this direction, is that at least you know that there be some sort of process with the building inspector, that at least you know that people are using their properties as short-term rentals for the same reason that you'd want to know that anybody might be taking on tenants, safety issues and things like that. You'd want to know that the place was, up to snuff in terms of code, et cetera, et cetera. The other, where you see blanks in that law, would be open for discussion by this board as to whether there are any other specific regulations you would want on the books. You may want none, and you may want some. And that I would leave open for discussion. And the reason I presented them as two different laws is, and again, this is absolutely a legislative prerogative, it seemed to me that there was a desire potentially to move, maybe more quickly with respect to the historic district, since that's where this issue originally arose as an item here. And so that you could do that if you wanted to. But clearly they could be merged again if you wanted to take your time. And I do want to say, as we've discussed before, it is still obviously on the table for the board to determine and discuss, how it wants to attack this issue, if at all. In other words, that's the public debate on this, I imagine, will be, there'll be points made on both sides, and board members have made points on both sides of whether this needs to be addressed in this way. But that's what you have in front of you, and happy to discuss it.
Thank you. And we have had this for a while, and yes.
Right.
But I would like to deal with them in two separate ways, Jason. I'd like to deal with the proposed change to the law, short-term rentals in terms of the historic district, and then maybe another night, because it's getting late, discuss what we want to do with the rest of the community, because it is very unclear to me why we wouldn't want special use permit. I mean, I was not in favor of, and I'm not clear
Right.
on why the rest of the board felt special use permits weren't appropriate for this kind of rental in the rest of the districts.
I wouldn't
And
disagree.
the rest of the, excuse me, the rest of the village?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I can shed some light on that just from my recollection, because it did inform how I approached this. I believe that the comments were in the nature of, since it wasn't necessarily the consensus of the board that there's, anything wrong with the idea of short-term rentals. Like, we've talked, for instance, about the idea that this is one way that people make ends meet in carrying the cost of their own home. It can be an economic driver. It can help people stay in the community.
Benefit to tourism.
Benefit to tourism, et cetera. So I think the board's sense was, why put sort of, for lack of a better word, ordinary homeowners through a planning board process that can be arduous, it can be expensive, it requires setting escrows, et cetera. So the idea was that it was still very much an issue in flux as to whether in the rest of the village, the board even wanted to attack the issue. And that being the case, the concept of a special permit seemed slightly onerous, I think, and that's why we did it. So that's why
You separate.
yeah, and the sorts of things that you're talking about that made special permit make some sense, which is what my original thinking was, is that the whole notion of special permits is that you've got a use that you want to permit in a district, but as to which you think there are specific concerns that you want to be able to address. So the other way to approach that without making it a planning board process and a special permit is simply to say in the code what those special provisions are.
And
And
how
so
many
that-
you're going to allow in a district? I mean, I don't think we want 20 short-term rentals on Elding Avenue.
Well, look, that's a matter, first of all, as you've explained, I think it may be wise
To have a better,
to
longer
really
discussion.
think about what those conditions might be
Right.
and put that particular one off. But
Right.
obviously, that's the notion of discussion, absolutely.
Okay, I would like to propose that we set a public hearing for the first part, or the one section of the law that forbids
Well, can we
short-term
discuss the
rentals.
law first before we set a public hearing? Can we discuss the law before
Oh,
we set a public?
I wanted to separate the two.
I know, but you're setting a public hearing for one.
They're
And then
he's
we would be
presenting two
discussing-
different laws.
But then the discussion would be whether or not to have a public hearing, not the content of the law that we're having a hearing on.
Well,
'Cause
we
I
have-
have issues with both laws. I think both are bad law.
Okay,
Both.
I think
So
the,
that's why I want to have a broader
I'd
discussion.
like to have a broader discussion first as well.
Hmm?
I'd like to have a discussion first as well before we're setting a public hearing.
I agree.
Would you mind
So let's-
withdrawing your motion on the
Well-
public hearing? And maybe make a motion to table the second law instead, and we can just discuss the historic district tonight?
I think that's
I
really
want,
where we
that's what
started.
I'm trying to do. I want to table the second part,
Okay.
the second law.
So let's do
which
that
is-
right now. Let's,
Well, I have
No.
questions about the second law, but
all right,
Joe's here.
yeah, that's true.
About the second law?
Yeah,
But see, that's what I'm trying,
I know you don't want to talk about it, but Joe is here and I want to talk about it.
well, yeah, but can
Can
we
we
agree
just-
to separate?
We can agree to
Okay.
have a separate discussion of each of the provisions.
Right.
So-
Just don't, just please withdraw your motion, set the public
I
hearing.
didn't have a second yet, and I hadn't
Okay, that's
finished
fine.
it.
Good enough. All
Not
right,
to
so-
worry about it.
Let's talk about the historic district one first, and just talk about that.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Ariane, who wants to start?
Well, I mean, my question was kind of more general, so it can be applied to the historic one. One of the things that I had talked about was the idea that if we were to allow short-term rental, that the short-term rental would have to abide by what that zone says.
Right.
And I was just wondering, I just didn't really see that.
Well, it's not specifically mentioned,
Okay.
and but I will tell you my legal opinion, and it doesn't mean that I couldn't add something. My legal opinion is they would have to, by being silent about it, they would have to abide by zoning. And my fear about adding it as a specific provision is that we might set up the implication that anywhere else in the code that we haven't specifically said that somehow it's not true. You know what I mean? I don't want to set up a precedent by adding such a provision here. But I will tell you, to address your concern, that they, as a matter of law, it's my opinion that that anybody would
That they would
have to.
have to anyway.
Exactly, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So as, all right, so in terms of people who are already doing this.
Right.
If they are caught doing it in the manner such as, is it the start of all of this, the 105 Huguenot,
Right.
where it's not a single family, could it be addressed in that, under that provision, the idea that they're renting to more than what is considered to be a single family?
You mean without a change in the law? Sorry about that, gee.
Relying on current zoning.
Yeah, I guess relying on current zoning, could that have been a route that we could go?
I don't, well, first, it's actually a really good question, because you may remember that in the beginning of this entire issue, and that's why, for instance, there's a pending
Right,
lawsuit.
it was
and-
identified as commercial use as opposed to.
Exactly, so
Right.
there's an argument to be.
But say it's not commercial use. Say it's like the example where we're having, the 2 weeks a year where I'm on vacation and I have a single family house and I rent it out to,
Whoever.
8 couples.
Right.
And have them set up mattresses on the floor.
Right,
Like,
so you fit in your
my
house.
house, I know, it'd be funny. But like, say that was the case and my neighbors had a horrific time with it and they came to the village board and they wanted to pursue something. And could that be stopped because I'm a single family? It might not be a commercial use. But it would be something that would be prevented by it being single family versus not.
It could be, and frankly, that is exactly where we are on the 105 Huguenot use.
Okay.
In other words, as you will recall, the reason that we have an injunction pending, the reason that there's a justice court proceeding is that it's already our position that it's not a permitted use.
Right.
Because used in that way, 8 couples, for instance, as opposed to letting your aunt stay for a couple weeks, that kind of thing, right? Or even a stranger stay for a couple weeks, right? Is that it is in fact a commercial use that's prohibited. Now, that is an arguable point, as I'm sure as we all know, the owner of 105 Huguenot will argue. That's why there was the idea that we should at least define it as a specific use.
Short-term.
Right, right, if nothing else, so that we know where it was allowed and where it wasn't. So if you define it as a use, I think you have to then insert it into the code where it's okay with you to do. And where you want to, the best purpose of for instance, the simple prohibition in the historic district, if you choose to go that route, is that it will eliminate any doubt about your intent there. So I hope that answers the question.
It does.
Anyway, I'll stop.
But Ariel, that's why I wanted to break them apart and deal with what you're asking another night where we can have a full discussion of what its implications are. Because
Right, but I feel
our,
like it applies to
our
both.
zoning code never anticipated this phenomenon that's occurring.
Right.
And I think we have to have a full discussion as to how we want to handle it, but it really is forbidden. Even now, it is forbidden in the historic district, and what Joe is saying we need to do is specify that it's
Right.
forbidden.
But I don't think it is forbidden. It's forbidden as a commercial use. It's not forbidden if I go away for 2 weeks and
Right.
rent my house out.
Right.
Even if my renting my house out is you're gonna stay here and watch my cat and
Right.
you're really just house sitting for me. You're not giving me money, but you're getting a break from New York City, for
Right.
instance.
Or I would say,
because that's the exchange for consideration of any kind.
Right.
And so I think that
There's nothing
I think
to-
we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot with this specific language.
There's nothing to say. I hope Ann doesn't mind my using her as an example. There's nothing to say that Ann and Rich, sister, who lives in California, comes to stay and they go to California for the week. They're not changing money, they're just sharing together. That's not forbidden by
Right,
this.
no, but it is in terms of in exchange for consideration of any kind.
Right.
for a period of less than 60 consecutive
I
days.
think if-
That does
If you
fall
just
under-
say in
Services
consideration
and
of money.
Exactly.
In-kind housing services.
I mean.
That's right.
but Joe answered
No,
that.
I think Ariana's right, that I think the implications of what's being discussed is that the idea of any kind, like, for instance, if it wasn't your sister, but it was a stranger, I think what Ariana's talking about is even in that situation where you did exchange, money, or you're gonna watch my cat, or, bartered services, whatever, what you are looking at here could be interpreted to prohibit that. So there's two ways to approach that. One is philosophical. In other words, you guys are still at the philosophical point of whether you want to do something about this at all, on either law, either village-wide or in the historic district.
And
But
if
the,
you want to do something.
yeah, I hear that. And then the other issue is, let's talk about the language. Let's talk about how we're
Yeah.
actually regulating this. So
Exactly.
it's a fair point.
All right, so.
Because I think the real issue that we're facing is the idea of using a property for commercial purposes, where it is very obviously not owner occupied.
Right.
And I think what we don't want to prohibit, well, at least what I don't want to prohibit, is I don't want to step on a property owner's rights as a property owner
Right.
to
trade.
use their property in the fashion that they'd like to, while they are the primary occupant of that residence.
Right.
So why don't we just add to short-term rental?
I can't turn it down until it turns on.
Okay, your definition of short-term rental is the use of a residential unit or dwelling of any kind, whether in whole or part, as a lodging in exchange for consideration of any kind for a period of less than 60 days. And that doesn't really cover it, because if it's an ongoing business, it's more than 60
No, but
days.
it would be,
Well, because it'd be less than, if I were renting it for 2 days and you were renting it for 2 days, even if the property owner rented it consecutively for 60 days, I'm not renting it consecutively for 60 days.
right.
So what we need to do is in exchange for money.
Well,
Well,
before we, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Because I'd like to take a step back.
I think it's not about the money even. I think what I'm saying, and for me what it's about, is primary residence. If this is my primary residence, I should be allowed to do more with it than if it is my secondary residence that I am renting out most of the time.
right.
I see you nodding, and I feel like that solves a
Yeah.
lot of what the
Right.
real
So
issue
how
is.
would you change the definition?
Well, that would, you're right, it changes the focus to how the owner uses the property.
Exactly.
Which is a slightly more complicated and less, and more esoteric definition.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
definitely a slippery slope in terms of
Right.
enforcement, which
is how we
means
know.
that we would know based on the neighbors.
Right.
How do we know what we know right now?
No, but you'd also have to define it in a way that would allow you to enforce it.
But you do.
And that's why I picked the days, and again, for discussion, I mean, this is why we're having this discussion, but at least picking the.
But Ariana, I think if you read the first sentence in section 1, the Board of Trustees finds that the developing trend of renting rooms or entire residential homes for short-term use by non-owners, that covers it.
That covers it.
It says non-owners.
But I think Ariana's suggesting that it might be, in her view anyway, it might be okay to rent it to non-owners if you're still
No,
treating it like a
you're the-
primary.
Can I interrupt just for a second? Only because it's starting to go back and forth a little bit. I'm confused about why we need either of these laws at all. Because they don't seem to address the problem that we were faced with. I mean, because it seems to me the problem, and I'm not knocking the fact that there was a problem, as you know from our conversations, but I see a lot of our existing laws as fixing it. I see this as a problem with noise. I see this as a problem with parking. I see this as a problem of where people are parking. And I think that there's nothing inherent in renting out a property that caused any of the problems on 105 Huguenot. I think if that property had been rented, for example, to 6 80-year-olds who were on a trip together, let me finish, Susan. Anne, sorry. There wouldn't be the noise issues at night. There wouldn't necessarily be the parking. Or if the neighbors had used the police and filed a complaint and gotten something on the record, there could have been fines. The way we enforce everything.
I think it has, if there was a single family thing where it was, a husband and wife and their one child, that's part of why I'm saying what I'm saying
Right,
in terms of.
but what I'm saying is we have a lot of, the nature of the complaints that I heard are already addressed by other parts of the code that were not being enforced. And to use the zoning law to deal with other types of complaints seems to me like, what's that metaphor, like killing a fly with a sledgehammer? And if the complaint is, and we'll get to this at another agenda item too, because you and I have talked about this, you know, obviously another problem we're dealing with is rentals as a whole, and that's why we had this whole rental conversation, which defines renters as, you know, whatever it defines it as. I guess I'm not seeing the need, and I see it as a burden, because I can think of half a dozen people off the top of my head who, there are no complaints, who use Airbnb or vacation home by rental, etc. The complaints I'm hearing are not complaints because someone's renting a house, but because the tenants they have are being jerks. And I don't see changing the zoning law as a good way to deal with that. I see using the police for noise complaints. I see using the code enforcement officer for parking issues, or even strengthening or changing those laws might solve these problems better than a zoning change.
I'm not gonna
You know what I mean?
disagree
I
with you.
definitely hear what you're saying.
Yeah, just, you know what I'm talking about.
But I think the idea of not defining short-term rental is not really the route to go. I think we need to define it, we just need to do it the right
To
way.
what end, though?
Because I think like a lot of the problems that you're describing could be solved by other parts of our code, with somebody who's part of this community. And I think that if somebody is not part of this community, then, you know, they're gonna get some fine for some code that they didn't comply by, but they're making money and they're just gonna pay it. And it's gonna be, 0.3% of their entire profit, and so they're not gonna really care, but they have to pay $15 or $150 if they're making $1,000.
2,000.
I want to point out that what you all are discussing, I'm not disagreeing with for all the rest of New Paltz, but within our code, and if I had known we were going to have this discussion, I would have brought the code book. It is not a permitted use in the historic district. And
Which is
this kind of thing.
renting of any kind?
We never knew we were going to have to deal with something like
But
this.
you can rent in the historic district,
No,
yes.
you can rent a house
To
Period.
somebody, yeah.
But you can't have a B&B, you can't have
Right.
a motel, you can't have a hostel, you can't have any of those things right now. The only thing that people discovered was that the code didn't specifically say you can't run a weekend rental commercially in
And
the
I
district.
think, to speak to it, and again, it remains your prerogative whether this is a compelling reason, but I think one of the reasons to address at least, as Ariana says, the definition, is that if somebody buys a home, or let's say they live in it for a long, long time and then decide how they're gonna use the home in this way, and consistently use it that way, the zoning reason to define it and regulate it is that it really can become like a B&B. You know what I mean? If somebody's gonna do this 20 weeks a year,
Less
it's
controlled than a
but
B&B.
less controlled, that's the problem. So that's the reason why you would take a zoning approach. And again, we still have to discuss what
Even
that.
as an owner occupied.
Exactly.
Then it truly would be more like a B&B.
And that's why, right, you have to decide what the threshold is, and that's a difficult legislative prerogative, but, and again, I'm not suggesting that you will find this reasoning compelling. I'm just saying that that is the zoning reasoning, is that used in a certain way, it really is like having a B&B or a hostel. And now, what Ariana has brought up, and I think is a fair concern, is you want to make sure you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, not every owner who decides to rent on a short-term basis is probably going to have that same impact. And then the other thing I do want to say, because I know that it's been brought up before by the neighbors, and Ariana, you kind of alluded to this as well, just by way of answering the mayor's question on why would we do it, is
Or
that
why wouldn't we use other tools?
why would we use other tools? Is that notion of the while the owner would ultimately be responsible, it doesn't help necessarily the neighbors who are consistently being bothered by it when the people being reprimanded at that time are just transient guests who are leaving in the morning.
That's
Again, those are the reasons. Whether they're compelling reasons, that's, or they're counterbalanced by something else, that's your prerogative.
And the other thing that we have to be very careful of, I think, is B&Bs right now, if you wanna run a B&B, it has to be owner occupied in the village of New Paltz. This is even more, because it's not, doesn't have to be owner occupied, and it's a commercial rental. It's like a micro motel, if you will.
right.
And so I think, at least tonight, because I mean, I really do think you've opened and Jason have opened a real long-term discussion on what we want to do with the rest. But I think for the historic district, we have to find the definition that's acceptable to all of us and ban this, because B&Bs are not a permitted use in the historic district right now. So why would this be?
Well, and as a broader, again, the reason the focus is on the historic issue, district
because
philosophically.
that's where the problem-
Not just because that's where the problem was, but the reason it got enough momentum to be proposed as a local law is that there's a sense that the historic district itself may be, just specially ill-suited to the traffic, et cetera, that goes along
Right.
with, that's why it was highlighted. That's the reason to
So
separate.
do you have a suggested definition that we can use that answers Ariana's question, but still takes the integrity of the law?
I wouldn't be comfortable sort of drafting it tonight in my head, and I don't want, look, I know some people want to move this, and
It's been sitting around a long time.
well, I know,
We
but-
also
well, we've been
have
moving.
I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say what we have, what the judge has ruled on.
Yeah.
That gives us time.
We did, that's right, we have a sort of a standstill agreement
Do
where.
we have that? Has that been ruled on?
Well, I'll tell you actually, number one, it's been signed by the other side. So we have an agreement with them now, written agreement, that they will not rent it after this, I think at the end of this
Do we have a
weekend. is
copy
their
of
last
that?
rental.
27th was the
27th.
last.
That agreement has been put in a form for the judge to sign it, which I hope will happen by Friday. I mean, I can't speak for
It
the
was
judge. I
last
can't-
Friday, or is it this
No,
Friday?
it was this Friday that I was
We
referring
just
to.
got this email.
Yeah, and so we do have essentially what amounts to a standstill agreement on this that will run through January. So there is time to consider this, and the effect, by the way, there's no reason not to talk about this, I don't think. The effect of the agreement is that it's actually, it becomes, when the judge signs it, it will become a contempt of court if they rent it after that. So you do have time to
Are
sort
you
of,
sure,
let's do
pretty
that.
sure he's gonna sign it?
if the
We've
two
got till
parties agree to
January.
it.
Oh, okay.
We've got till January to, even if things go squirrely, to get this done.
Right.
That-
So we can
that-
wait another meeting to have the
Yeah.
language.
I can live with that if we promise to put on the
Let's
next
put it on
agenda
our
a full discussion of this.
November 13th.
Of both.
Yeah.
Both laws,
But-
with the new definition.
Well,
Joe.
so my question then for Joe is, do you feel like you have a solid understanding of what we're looking for? And I guess my question to the board is, are we in agreement? Because I think I stated how I feel about it.
Right.
I thought clearly. But, if we're not in agreement, do we need to give you better direction?
If I'm wrong, I agree with you.
On the 13th?
I can't be there on the 13th. I just looked at my calendar with those change dates. I know I can be there on the 20th for what it's worth.
Okay.
But I will say this, if it's all right with the board. I think I understand Ariana, but maybe you and I could actually specifically meet and make sure that I'm getting it right in the next few
Sure,
days. We'll
as
just,
long as the board
Include
trusts.
me in.
Perfect. Just
Include
emails
me in.
everything, and we're
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna table this till the next meeting?
Do we need to table or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to table?
Yeah, let's put it, make sure we put it on the.
And Katie, I saw Katie nodding, she's got the notes, all right. I'm gonna do a couple of just quick ones, because I think they should be quick. One is, I move to approve bills and claims.
Thank
Will
you.
you send it to them?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And as soon as Friday comes and Joe has the response, he says he will
No.
get a copy to
I'll
you.
give you a copy of the.
Okay?
I considered withholding Station 2 rent, but, firefighters are getting mad at it.
What else is?
There's 2 or 3 things. All right, so the board last time had, we had tabled the Environmental Commission reorganization. I snarkily answered
Bye-bye.
Katie's email, and there was nothing that was actually relevant to what we have in front of us, so I sent her responses. So there are 2 small changes I'd like to make, and then set this public hearing, if it's all right with you. One is,
Well, this is, we have had a public hearing on this and held
but
it
we've held
open
it
for
open,
you.
yeah.
So you.
There was 2 minor changes I wanted to see if they were minor enough that we needed to do anything. One is on the back, there's just a grammatical error. 9-3D, SUNY New Paltz. New should be capitalized, just when
Oh,
we send
that's
it
not a
out.
biggie.
Nope, that one should not change the fact. But there was one that changed, slightly changed the nature of this, 9-2, membership, number C. It says that the commission members themselves, and I specifically want to put this out, but it says that the commission itself elects its chair. I'd like to change that for 2 reasons. One is every other board and commission has the chair appointed by the mayor and trustees, and I don't see a reason for this difference. But more importantly, the way I had envisioned this was, since this is a set of 5 groups of 3 commissioners, one of those groups would be the chair, the deputy chair, and somebody else, an administrative group. So one set of people whose sole task is to make sure everyone else is on task. Does that make sense?
No,
All right. So this is set up
because
as,
we agreed to that change when we sat here and discussed it.
well, if
So
if
I'm
it
not
did-
sure why you want to change
If
it
it
now.
did, then it went past me, because
Oh.
that was something that it's a little bit key to how I picture this operating. Because I've got about a dozen people who, if this passes, are interested in serving. And having chaired the town's environmental commission for a while, I know how tough it can be to chair a meeting and help write the wetlands law. And we've got things that we've already agreed to as a board, we're signatory to the UN Environmental Accords, the US Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. So I thought having one of these groups of commissioner and 2 assistants be the chair and 2 assistants, whose only job is to help coordinate the work, would really be very helpful in making this effective. So basically what I would ask Joe if this is a meaningful enough change, is to basically change nothing except move it back to the chair is appointed by the mayor with permission of the trustees, the same way we appoint the planning board chair and ZBA chair. Because that would make it functional in this experiment I have in my head.
All right, so just, there's no reason not to do it from a legal perspective, just so that.
I mean, can anyone think of a really good reason why having the ENCC elect its own chair would be better than having someone specifically tasked to doing the administrative work?
The only reason,
So I was thinking one person to think big picture, you know what I mean?
okay, I understand what you're saying, but I do want to point out, and you said that the comments weren't relevant. They are relevant, Jason, in the sense that this is a very, very heavy-duty volunteer job. I mean, anybody that's going to volunteer for this commission has got to have a hole in their head.
No, not at all. I disagree.
I hate to tell you.
And I've got people who are willing to do it.
I mean, I think,
I'm asking, in writing this law, I'm asking the board's permission to try something we've never tried before, and see if it gives the results I think it's gonna give.
I'm not saying,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
the concept, I think what you're trying to do is fabulous. I just think we have to be realistic in the sense that this may not work.
Absolutely, and I accept
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I'm just
And
saying,
that's
I
all-
accept that it may not work.
That's all
It's an
Kitty was
experiment.
trying to say when she came to the meeting.
Okay, maybe I got a different list of questions,
That-
because they had to do with seeker and things like that.
Yeah, well, that was not relevant,
Right,
but
so all I'm saying is, I'm asking the board's permission to make this commission, in this, actually weirdly, in this one way, to make it like all of our other boards and commissions.
The mayor appoints with.
With permission, like the same language and everything, yeah, Tom?
No, I noted this oddity when I was first reading it, but I assumed that you had a reason.
No, it's from the old law for some reason, that's.
Oh, so it just didn't drop out.
It just didn't drop
we
out.
discussed it.
Yeah, and-
We sat here and discussed it.
That's entirely possible.
And people felt that the people who volunteered for the commission had a better knowledge of issues and what needed to be done and would have a better understanding of the projects, and therefore would probably have a better sense of who they should chair them. I think that was our reasoning.
So
Well, we
that's
discussed
fine,
it.
that may be true, so the mayor posed the question.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not remembering that in particular.
Oh, that discussion was before your time.
That's why I'm not remembering.
I don't remember
I
either.
don't remember either.
But,
I'm not
I
saying
have all
that
the-
it's not the case.
but.
It's irrelevant,
I don't
because,
remember something else happening.
But I was wondering why it was different. And I would wonder now whether the chair would indeed have a different burden in generating at least one. What would be, it's like being the chair of a department, you
Right.
get
Yeah,
one
I'll give you,
course.
right.
Release
Here's,
times.
I'll give you one example of what I picture the chair having their policy be. Because, I was there and at the conference that drafted this, New Paltz, you should be proud, is one of the first 70 communities on the planet who are an original signatory to the United Nations Urban Environmental Accords.
Yes.
So it's like a ranking of the, you get gold stars for this, that, the other. One thing I imagine the chair doing is being the person who's actually looking at that and saying, okay, Tom, you're working on cleaning up the Wallkill. All right, that fits over here, and we're gonna plug that in here. Or the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement, which we signed on to, which has thresholds we don't ever bother to look at. Someone to keep an eye on this stuff.
This is not a big issue for me, and I think because you do appoint others, it should be you appointing the chair.
And it does make it consistent.
And it does not change the content or the intent.
What do you think, Ariana?
Honestly, this is not really a sticking point for me.
Okay.
Whether or not the committee elects its own chair
Right.
or we appoint a chair.
Can we then move or just agree?
No, what we have to do,
I feel like there's so much more
That's-
here in terms of content.
we have kept
that
this
that is-
hearing open because the mayor was not with us.
Which I appreciate
I
very
would
much. Thank you.
suggest, Katie, that at the next meeting, this show as the continuation of the hearing. We have the proper hearing. It's still open.
Well, wait, we've had the public hearing.
It is.
Joe?
It's closed.
Joe, let me ask you this.
I don't think we,
I think we closed it last time.
Let me pull them, if you'll let me pull
Well,
them.
all right, you do that. Let me ask Joe, under either of these circumstances, if it's closed and we change these two things, or if it's been held open and we close it tonight and these things, is there any reason we can't just adopt this law tonight?
If that's the only change, I would say no.
Okay.
But
So we can change the law, or we can adopt this law tonight as long as this chairmanship thing is the only change.
right, because it's not, in my view, material enough.
And either way.
Right. either way.
right.
So I move to adopt this local law.
Well,
Just a minute, let's find out whether we closed it.
that's
Oh.
fair. I know where you're going, but
I just figured it didn't matter.
if it's still open, you'd want to
Oh,
close
yeah, I'm
it.
sorry.
Definitely closed it. You closed it, Sally seconded, five ayes.
Okay, so the public
It
has
is
already been closed. I move we adopt this local law.
I second that.
All in favor?
I'm going to vote for it, but please don't be disappointed that this doesn't work.
That's it. Hey, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Okay.
Did we complete that vote, though?
No, we're still
No,
discussing.
yeah, we're in discussion.
Right.
So I'm just curious because I would love if this works. I think it's awesome, and if it works, it's great. If we're finding that it doesn't work, what is the plan?
Well,
And how long are we thinking we would give it
the
to see
plan-
if it works?
well, we can
A
see.
year?
We'll have to come back and.
I'd say probably
8
a
months?
year, 1 year. And if not, we can just
I'm not making it part of a motion, I'm
No, I know,
just discussion.
but how about this as a plan B, a backup plan? If this doesn't work, say, it's just too much work, or we can't recruit people or whatnot, we just collapse the ENCC back to the standard 5-person, we can strip out some of the, fluff from the old law, but a simple standard 5-member ENCC.
No, we're gonna have to redo the law
No, that's
and
what I mean,
take
we
it back.
redo the law in a year and see,
Yeah.
By the end of the year, we're supposed to have in hand a complete report that includes all of the
There we
recommended
go.
policy changes.
It's got a
If we-
long-term view in its intent, really.
If we
so-
don't have that, we
Right.
don't have the results that this is intended to produce, and it's up to us as the legislating body to legislate.
Yeah.
I'd like this law to go into effect January 1st through December, to give you a shot
Well,
at it.
It goes into effect 30 days from when it's filed. I've already got some people recruited. I'm hoping to come,
Let's
depending on
give you the lead time, though. Let's make,
it's easier, honestly, if the law is passed and on the books, it's easier to get people to agree to something rather than
yeah,
say
but we
we're
need to
starting.
give them 1 year. Right now, they would have to, by the end of December, produce their
No,
stuff.
I think Sally's right, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean we make it in effect January 1st. It means we make it in effect now, we hopefully have the committee up and
That's what
running
it,
in
yeah.
January.
All right.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you what, my goal is
The
to,
first meeting of this will be.
right, I'm trying to get people recruited and to
Because
our
what I
board
don't
meeting,
want to happen
November, December.
is 6 months from now, are saying, where are your reports? Because we
I
have,
plan to have appointees coming to the village board November, December with their proposed projects ready to discuss with you for appointment to this board.
Okay.
So we have,
We'll interview
And we'll interview-
throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
People to-
we would only interview the chair.
but I'll bring,
You- or
we'll figure it
all
out.
members.
We'll figure it out.
Because I want to
All members.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
always
you're
interview
right.
members, yeah.
Because I want to turn it around to Katie for filing quickly, let me just clarify something, Jason. The idea of you appointing the chair with the approval of the trustees is easy and straightforward, but that sentence also says a secretary and designate one voting member as liaison. Would you, that
The
is not
secretary,
quite
That
as
remains
the
within
secretary
that.
is hired.
hired.
We have that in the budget.
So we'll just take that,
So the secretary is not a member of the board.
and
It's
not an appointee.
and not an appointee any more than Katie is a member of the village board.
Right.
Same kind of
So
thing.
that can come out, and
Yeah.
the designation of the voting member, that'd probably still be appropriate for the board itself to do, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
hiring the secretary, yeah, that's the way, that's whatever normal process. And yes, keep in one voting member as liaison to the planning board.
Have the board do
Because
that.
one of
They
those
do that
5 groupings
themselves.
is land use.
And it rotates.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I have a question, just under 9.3 duties, A2. Didn't we change that, propose that to remediate undue past harm to the environment? Wasn't it just remediate past harm to the environment? It just reads
There
funny.
was discussion about that at any rate.
There definitely was.
Sorry.
Oh, well, you know what? Undo is just an extra word there right now.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's just remediate, but you're right. That's
Okay,
a
so
grammatical
scrap the
thing.
undo.
Got it.
I'm just wondering if this was
Okay, but
Was-
very final version
but
of what we.
I still raise, Jason, the question, look at E.
Right, Jason.
9.2E, the policies to
Oh,
be
hold on.
researched shall be decided on the first meeting in June each year and may be amended from time to time at the discretion of the chair. If they even start in December, are we going to give them a year and a half the first go around?
You know what, I think the first 6 months will probably be getting organized, and it can be the same policies.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It can be
All
the
right,
same.
just remember, we agreed on
Yeah,
that, because I
exactly.
think you're,
And I think obviously there's provisions made for the first, when we pass it, you know?
Can Katie just make a notation in the minutes that the first appointment the first appointed commission will not be expected by June 30th to,
we can do that as a part of the motion to accept the policy, or the law.
yes?
Well,
Whatever
no, I
works.
mean, the law is what it is. I think you
You wanna put it in?
I don't really, I mean, I would, I just don't wanna change.
I think we have to agree on that and
Well,
not
you
put
can
it in.
agree on it, I think that's
Yeah,
what
that's
Tom's
what I'm
doing.
saying.
That's what I'm
That-
suggesting.
It'll be
that it
reflected
goes
in the minutes.
Reflected in the
All right.
minutes is that it's our understanding that because we're passing the law now, and it's going to go into effect with much less than a year for this group to do their work, that we're not expecting them to do a year's work in a half a year.
Right.
And that's
And we
fine, by
agree
the
on
way,
that.
as sort of an administrative or legislative prerogative, because the only outcome of them failing to meet such a deadline would be that you would take action,
Yeah,
for
we would get
instance,
mad
to
at
remove them or
them,
something. I
yeah.
mean, you know, and as long as you understand that that's your position, you're fine.
Right. But this will remind us next year.
Right.
When somebody says, hey, why?
Why didn't you hold them to that?
Right.
It'll be on
Are
the
we
record.
ready to vote?
Hold on, Ariana has one more question. Which one?
Okay, wait, all right, maybe my question is this. Okay, yeah, the red line version is first, and then the version after it is all the changes. So in reports, in 9.4, I thought we changed that stuff too. By December 31st, I thought we changed that.
It's the same in both.
I know, but I thought we changed it.
I'm reading the minutes.
What?
Everything
Which
that
one
you
did you
gave me
think
as
we changed?
directions- Everything that you gave as directions at that meeting, I wrote, put in the minutes, so just give me one second.
Okay, awesome, Katie, thank you. Because I'm looking at this.
Yeah, by
and I
December
just don't-
31st of each year, the secretary shall
I
file
know,
a
but
report.
I remember us changing these things, and I'm wondering if what we're looking at right now is actually the final version of what we, because there
We
was a
changed
final-
it to April 1st.
Well, no, that's the one up top, right?
Right, but I'm looking
That's
at
the one
number
above it,
2.
April
And
1st.
I thought we just, I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe this is what we changed it to.
Or maybe we discussed it, but it didn't
Yeah.
carry or
Right,
something.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Katie's looking up the minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think you're reading.
No, no, no.
I think, Ariana,
But I
that
did make note
this
of
is the
every
way
change
we did it.
directions.
I'm not sure.
I just want to double check because I don't want to approve something that isn't the final version of what we discussed. And I could be wrong in my recollection. I just really thought we had discussed that December 31st is not.
And do you remember what we were talking about doing instead? or-
I just remember that we changed that date because we thought December 31st is not a time where things are being submitted. We might have even changed it to December 1st instead of December 31st.
I think I remember putting it in there because it was 6 months after the June,
Right.
kind of like based on the reorg meeting. idea, you know?
No, I,
And then it was also
but December
in time
1st.
in time
is also
for
kind of 6 months
the
after.
budget process too, where we get it from departments at the end of January, early February, we get
That's,
their draft
we
budgets.
discussed that.
Oh, yeah,
and
that rings a
I
bell.
suggested January, but
I bet we changed it to this. I bet that's what it is.
Okay, here's all the notes from that. This is the minutes from that meeting, and every change that the board requested, I made note of. So I'll let you control.
I think we discussed that, Jason, but you wanted to keep December 31st, even though we don't require budgets to be until February.
Yeah.
To give them the opportunity to really think about what they need
Because they needed to think
I
about their
think-
projects, how they were going.
and what they needed more funding.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think you
And
argued.
they only meet once a month, so yeah.
I think that's why we kept it December 31st.
Looking at duties, this is different from what it says here. 1, prevent harm to the environment from happening in the future. 2, slow or halt harm to the environment from happening right now. 3, undo harm to the environment inflicted in the past. These are the things that we said to change to, and that's not what.
So it got changed into legalese.
No, we changed it from this to this. We also had 4 and 5. We had 5 different.
So duties under A,
9, 9.3 duties A.
we had, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, there's only 4.
These are the following changes. wait. So this is what it did say, and this is what it.
Because remember, my language was a little bit more apocalyptic, and we changed it to be more neutral.
Yeah, right.
Just in order to each can do change.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like what I proposed, number one at least.
Are you saying that what we agreed to is different than what this is saying?
Yes.
Then I would recommend that we table this till November 13th and get what we agreed to
But
into law.
are you looking at notes of a discussion, Ariana?
We
Or
went through
just
the
two
law.
different versions of the law? No, that's, I want to make,
We went through the law with Jason, and we
Right.
voted yay or nay, up and
Right,
down on
right.
each section.
And I wrote out four, because the duties were a little bit long. I wrote out four simple things.
right.
Is there a chance you took that and changed it and made it more legalistic?
I don't,
Sure, do you want me to send you a copy of this right now?
No,
yeah, I'm not, my computer's not connected to me, it won't work. Well, it would work.
yeah, because no, this is,
Um,
you're right, listen.
Ariana, there are two sets of duties.
I know, look, listen, but I think I agree with Ariana. Under the red line one, it says, you can see what it used to say, just prevent harm to the environment.
I'm
Which was
looking at the-
changed to prevent, minimize, remediate, or mitigate continuing or future harm to the environment.
We made that change, I remember that.
We added all those mitigate, remediate,
We
minimize.
minimize, remediate, mitigate, continuing or
Oh,
future
we did
harm.
that.
I can remember our laughing about people kept adding things.
I remember, okay.
And then the second was proposed
It
measures
doesn't-
to
It
remediate.
doesn't meaningfully change anything. But, I mean, I'd rather get it right than get it fast.
What about that, if I may, what about that date issue, Ariana?
What date is she?
Down in 9-4.
This definitely says that we agreed to something different.
Which was? April?
By June 1st of each year, the secretary shall file a report containing
Step.
A, B, and C. A status report on the policy, on each policy currently being researched, and it's as well. An executive summary of all formal opinions, and C is recommendations on environmental policy board reorganization, structure, staffing, or other major administrative organizational resources needed.
That's in the final one. It says April instead of June. What happened with this? Why is this not the right version?
And then 2 is, it does say by December 31st, is a status report on each. There's just A and B, and then there's also a 3 by February 1st to complete and submit a tentative budget.
These are all the changes we approved?
And it says during the course of the discussion, the board made the following changes to the proposed law.
Why is this not the final one we had the public hearing on then? Joe?
Well, that
Katie?
might just be a matter of what's in the packet.
I mean, yeah, well, that's
You know
what
what I
I'm
mean?
saying. There
Right.
might be a final
Yeah.
version that does match what we were looking at.
I see.
I'm just looking at this and I'm like, this is definitely not what we.
Joe, what's your most recent version?
I have a suggestion. Katie, will you send that document that you and Ariana are looking to Joe?
Yes.
And Joe, will you get what the
Yeah.
board agreed to?
So these are the kinds of things that make this job incredibly frustrating. You know, we're ready to go and now we gotta wait 2 weeks because
Well-
we have the wrong papers.
What's the date
That's
of
why
that
chicken law took so long.
document that you're looking at there?
These are the minutes of 7/24.
The thing is that, like, it might be that all of that is in here.
Right.
It's just not in here in that exact format. Because, like, 9.3 duties A1, prevent, minimize, remediate, or mitigate continuing or future harm to the environment. That's definitely like 3 different points on that, in those notes. It's like 1, 2, and 3, but it doesn't have to be 1, 2, and 3. It could be 1. You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
yeah.
So it might be that it was consolidated, But there's definitely other things here that seem to not line up to what we
Well,
all.
we better.
So do we return to Sally's point?
Yeah.
That we
All right.
need, in fact,
Table this until we get the correct version. Katie and Joe, please make sure we have the correct
I don't
version.
wanna table it, I wanna put it on the agenda for the November,
I'm sorry,
13th.
that's what I was doing,
13th
tabling
meeting.
it till the November 13th. Putting it on
so,
the agenda.
and get this all straightened out so that what the board agreed with Jason is what we
Oh,
want.
no, I'm agreeing with you, I'm just angry that it's not
Okay.
what's in front of us.
I know,
'cause,
and this is
I mean,
what we
someone
had the
did their
hearing
job.
on.
What?
This, the one with the mistakes is the one we had the hearing on.
Yeah, and so Joe is gonna have to tell us whether we have to reopen the public hearing and renotice it.
We will
or
have to
not.
reopen it.
No, I don't think we will. I mean,
All right, let's see where we
This
are.
conversation's over, we need to keep going.
Yep.
We've got, it's 10:30.
I would
so
like
wait,
to-
we need to vote on the table.
I'm not sure we do we?
Yeah.
I don't even care, parliamentary.
Well, we're not voting on anything, we're just saying we can't act on it tonight, and we're putting it on the agenda,
That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's fine.
I mean, we did have
a motion. Oh, yeah, we did, okay.
Did you what?
I'll move that
Oh,
we,
you gotta So I'll withdraw my motion to adopt this
and
local law.
I'll withdraw my second.
Thank you.
But I
All right.
do want
So,
the correct
It's not your fault.
proposed law to us by November.
No,
13th?
no, we're gonna have the proposed law to us by close of business tomorrow.
Oh,
Katie and Joe.
but we can't act on it
It
until.
doesn't matter, I wanna close the
Okay,
business in
all
our,
right,
in our
that's
email
fine.
box. If it wasn't to us tonight, after how many public hearings? I'm not happy. All right, we've got 1, 2,
Discussion of local
3.
law reforming, I'd like to
Hold on,
suggest.
I
that
know,
we
I
hold-
know you wanna hold off on it, but I.
Because of Rebecca, she had some things she wanted.
Also, but what I'd like to do is not really, we don't have to get into a discussion, but I'd like, since Joe's here, and Joe and I had met over lunch and went through this, I just want Joe to go, tell us his opinion on the comparison, and then not even get into the conversation, but,
Okay,
so we can have his comments fresh in our minds 2 weeks from now.
and we might be able to return to this one too. I think I may have just seen. I think
Okay.
the compare might have gone backwards,
Okay,
and so I might have it here.
all right, but go through the rental law
Yeah.
first,
So
because we sussed out the major philosophical.
yes, so the two versions side by side have, and I recognize that this is a little onerous to read, but I think it's a decent piece of work, and hopefully we can get now to the point where we're going to propose one law for consideration. But there are two sort of fundamental philosophical differences between the versions. One is that the mayor's proposal has an element of penalty and compensation to displaced tenants when there's violations that require them to be shut down. And the other is that the mayor's approach is sort of prophylactic in the sense that we provide to owners exactly what it is they need to comply with. There's, in a sense, a self-reporting element to what they have to file in the building department. And then there's inspections scheduled that they know about in advance, and it justifies our immediate action if they're not in compliance, as opposed to sort of always relying on just either a complaint from a tenant or a complaint from a neighbor or the building inspector's ability to get out there, randomly to find these violations. There's a lot of merit to that approach. I think, as the mayor's explained before, that the checklist, so to speak, the items themselves are really not different than what we require now. The issue is how do we administer it and what onus do we put on the owners to do it. Now, there are obviously some other distinctions between the two columns, but those are the fundamental differences between the two proposals.
well, there is also a very major fundamental, and that is that the mayor does not require, but our law does require that if a property is found lacking in one or more of the following, which is state code: running water, heat or heat source, electricity, sanitary facilities, window and sleeping space, cooking facilities, or smoke carbon monoxide detectors, the property may not be rented. It may not be used.
The law I wrote does cover that, because those are covered in the property maintenance code and the village code, which is in a separate checklist.
But the point is that if you're going to inspect a building, okay, those are absolutely essential, you must have, or you can't rent. Now,
I'm sorry, Joe.
this
you
is,
do
this
go
is
ahead.
where we were open to the displaced tenant, because just say somebody is renting and the building they're not registered, you know, they're whatever, they're renting the property before the building inspector gets there. Okay, the building inspector gets there and finds F is they're in violation. Then I would be open, and Ariana, I think we're open to putting the displaced tenant there. In other words, you're renting a building, I'm the building inspector, I come and I find you don't have heat, or maybe you don't have sanitary facilities that are proper, or you don't have the major 7 state code items that are required. Okay? Then, if that's true, then I think the penalty could be the displaced person.
Right.
Oh, wait, maybe I think I understand you, Sally. So you're saying, my law has it that if, for any reason,
Right,
a place becomes uninhabitable,
right.
the displaced tenant kicks in and you, the landlord, got to pay for them to live somewhere else. You're saying the displaced tenant thing would be okay, but only for a smaller number of problems.
But
Big.
Water or.
Big
I think
essential.
there's things that make a place truly uninhabitable,
Uninhabitable.
as opposed to just the culmination of a number of violations.
Right.
Correct.
That are not like heat or hot water or
Even if they're
sanitary.
repeated violations? Because that's the only reason it would kick in, is after
Yes.
X number of code
Even if they're
violations,
repeated
you gotta do that.
violations, but you know, if it's a repeated violation of no screens in the window, like,
Right.
that does not mean that a place is uninhabitable. You know what I mean?
Wait, how do I
Right.
define? I can't
Two
remember.
paint
Joe, do you remember?
chips.
Can you weigh in here? Because I can't remember how this was defined.
Well-
I don't remember the section. You read it more recently.
Yeah, I think again, in your proposal, it was,
I thought it was stricter than what they're describing, but if it's not, then
It's,
that.
under definitions, you have displaced tenant, and then you have it, the penalties are,
And where does it say when that kicks in?
Result of the loss of certificate of occupancy
What
and
section?
or rest, it's in our definitions.
yeah, but I think what Jason's looking for is,
When does that definition kick
when
in?
does it trigger the requirement that the owner,
that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
You think it's triggered by one of those 7,
12912.
okay?
All right, here's the section, I think, temporary housing. If a rental property's C of O, certificate of occupancy, or its rental license has not been obtained or has been revoked, the property owner shall provide should be at their expense, temporary housing for all displaced tenants, which shall, 1, be provided until the lease expires, a C of O is established, or the license is issued, I guess, until they fix the problem.
right?
Or they find alternate housing. And 2, has to be at the nearest geographical and rental rate, so as equivalent as possible until they get their C of O back.
Well, so maybe it's, maybe what we're really looking at in terms of where we can like agree on this is what triggers, you
The
know,
temporary housing.
Well, or because
Right.
certificate of occupancy is an obvious one. If you know the building commissioner says you can't, nobody can live here legally.
Right,
That's an
but
obvious.
I think when we're talking about that, we need to have a list of what truly triggers that. And I know that's in here also.
Isn't that also in another part of the code, Joe? How you would lose is, or tell me when,
Well, there's a-
certificate of occupancy?
I don't remember that, but I
Certificate of
agree
occupancy.
that if the violations are frequent enough or serious enough that a C of O is denied,
Or
then-
pulled, yeah,
Yeah,
in the
pulled.
middle of the lease. Yeah.
then I mean, automatically, the people are not allowed to live. The people who are
Right.
resident there are no longer allowed to be resident. You're not,
So I think, Jason, if we could find a way to put our 129.9F, if you can move your 129.12 temporary housing as a consequence of if a property is found lacking or has its CO pulled, if you want to add that too, then the temporary housing proviso kicks in. But
Well,
where you
here's-
have it and
but-
how you have it, I can't
You're,
agree.
you're tricky, I know you are. So, but here's the thing. We should be talking about what on your column might amend my law, not what in my law amends yours.
No, because you want support for your law, and I'm only gonna support it
But is this the only, is this the
with
only
compromise.
sticking point? Is this the only sticking point? Because Joe identified
I
a
think
bunch
this
of-
is the major difference.
So,
Well, it seems to be a major difference for Sally.
right. I
Well,
mean,
I'm just saying,
Of
if we
every-
want to fit these two laws together
Right.
and make a really workable law, then the only way I can see doing the displaced tenant thing is
Is
sticking
if
it
it's more
in.
narrow. If it's more narrowly defined than it is in the way I wrote it.
Now,
I guess, that would be, so we don't have to get into a back and forth, but maybe for the next meeting, if you could just tell me either tonight or just email me, just give the numbers or whatever, tell me what the real main sticking points in what I wrote, or if you prefer the other one. Because I imagine there must be more than just the displaced tenant. Though I know, Sally, you and I have talked about this, and actually, as a side note, this law, were we to pass it, might help with our prior discussion, since it defines rental property as any property exchanged for money or whatever of any kind.
yeah, but I don't think that
So at
really
least get these
addresses
places
that one.
inspected,
No, but my point is that I think, the page, the 14.3, red D under yours, I think we have in a different place. I don't think that's even up for grabs. I think we both have that.
I mean, I'm not sure what you mean, Sal. We both have that.
Both laws
on the-
have that you have to post,
This is the landlord association version, this is mayor's proposal.
Yes,
landlord
yes,
association.
I got that.
but,
Well, it's
and
exactly
we're
in line
charging,
with The landlord association.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought.
we're
It was
charging,
that committee that started it. that's
okay,
what
you're charging nothing for registration requirements and we are.
I'm sorry.
We're charging a fee.
Oh, no, I charge a fee. Don't I?
Now Joe has,
Yeah, it's a per tenant fee. My fee is per tenant. Yours is a flat, like, $100 a year no matter what.
right, because we're not gonna be able to approve the tenancy.
It's zoning. There's only so many people who can live in one place.
Jason, how many times have we been told by people that people, once they have their lease, then they allow 5, 6, 7 of their friends in? We're not gonna be able to police that.
Yeah, well,
We have to be realistic. So we might as well make some money. Because we're not gonna be able to prove
I think we're on the
tenancy.
same page there. It's just,
What do you need?
difference of mechanism.
A pen?
Yeah.
All right, it's getting really late for this.
I agree.
So Joe, you're the most important person here right now because you're the only one who's not going to be here next time. Give us everything you've got on this. What you think, what is not workable, what you decide you might prefer, what language. I mean, is there anything you can do, because your advice is not going to be taken into account next time we talk about this.
Well, look,
Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I think if look, this is a policy decision, but I'll tell you my opinion is that the mayor's approach makes sense in a lot of ways, and I think Jason is right that the approach at the table should be to make his law acceptable to you, right? To 3 out of 5 of you, okay?
if his law, it was not acceptable to 3 out of 5.
No, I understand.
Then
So-
wouldn't it be a better idea to try and just agree?
But that's
that-
what I'm saying. What I'm about to say is, it sounds like to me that at the table right now, you've got, is this the issue that you've got between the two laws? If these
I
two
think
concepts
that
can be
this,
married?
I personally believe, and other people believe, that the displaced tenant, as it is right now in Jason's law,
Right?
is not enforceable and will lead us to an Article 78.
Do you agree with that, Joe?
Well, I can never predict if it will lead you to an Article 78.
So, well, you
There's-
should be telling us,
In other words,
The
some,
guiding
likelihood,
us,
Right.
yes,
the
anyone
best
can
thing
file.
we can
Right.
do
Yeah.
right.
to have a very good law, an enforceable law, and a reasonable law that can't be challenged in court. Anything can be challenged
Yeah,
in court,
but here- so
but I
I-
don't think that's the direction we want to
So I
go.
will tell you what I've told you before. I did the research on this when the mayor first brought the concept up. I see nothing in the law that prohibits that. I would say that it is an aggressive and almost novel approach, but I have done the research exhaustively and I see nothing that prohibits it from being included in the law. I mean, look, I think the mayor has purposefully tried to be aggressive on this point as part of trying to get compliance, and I don't see anything that prohibits it. I know that people get mad at lawyers and mad
Yeah,
at
but
me
what does
sometimes,
it mean by virtue of a violation of this chapter?
Now this is where I think you started, which is that the mayor's proposal is that if it fails in any respect,
Including a paint chip. That's on the list. The list is not prioritized. I think Joe needs to see the checklist, Jason, and there needs to be some priority, because it seems to me,
We
a
don't have that
person who
option.
wants to rent an apartment, and there are 3 paint chips, and perhaps a piece of linoleum that's not tightly glued down, is very different than a violation for not operable furnace.
well, I understand what you're saying. First of all, I think that the mayor's proposal is not quite that picayune. It talks about code violations.
That's a code violation, paint chips. On the checklist, you
But
have,
Sally,
Well, no,
it doesn't cause you to lose your license
Right.
automatically.
Right.
It causes you to go to court automatically
To fix the
to
condition.
fix the condition. And what it says is, I think if 5 of those in a 6-month period, I can't remember, something like that, or 5 of those, a certain number in a certain amount of time, then you can lose your license. So you basically got to go to court half a dozen times before we yank your license. You better really be a scofflaw. So it's not a matter of
what do
any,
you do about the
any code
person
violation.
who doesn't even have the license and you discover is renting an apartment
Then we
unregistered,
then we
just a minute,
require them to
unregistered.
register, and if they refuse, then the displaced tenant comes in.
See, I think the 5 or more appearance tickets in 6 months.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's in F
129.8
Yeah, it's
or D.
D2F.
So that's when you lose your license.
But I think what Sally's saying is, okay, so I've got 2 paint chips, I've got a linoleum thing, I've got no screens in my window. Like, say I.
But we've also told you 3 times everything you need to do.
Right, but I think the question though, and maybe this is really what just needs to be clarified, is are each of those things a violation? Or are all of those things on one ticket as a violation?
Maybe that's right. That I need to clarify because my intent.
See what I'm saying?
I just
Very
now
good,
see
Ariana.
that's- Hold on, let me write that down. My intent was
All of those things are one violation.
it's 5 visits.
Got it.
That's what it is. 5 times we show up. It could be 20.
Okay.
And then you go to court for 20 tickets, and then the next
Saying 5 or
time,
more appearance tickets in 6 months.
Oh.
I don't know if.
that means you're going to court. Right.
Right, but are you being cited individually for these
Are they
things?
right? Are you cited 5 times on one sheet?
Exactly. Or
Okay.
is one?
That's a smart comment.
And-
That's where Sally and I were getting held up because,
Right.
and I think Ellen kind of mouthed this at us. The
Corollary
idea
to
like,
that is-
all right, say I'm renting and I decide that I'm going to have a party, and all of a sudden this house is in disarray, and my landlord came that day to make sure that everything was in perfect order for the rental inspection tomorrow, and now it's not. So what happens there? And you know, if all of those
That would be
things.
between you and your tenant, right?
Right.
Or me or you.
Me and my landlord.
Yeah.
But so that's why all of those things as one ticket versus as many
Right.
is a really
You don't want the
big
landlord
difference.
getting 20
And
different
Jason,
and then it's like.
Corollary-
What I pictured
It's not
was,
their fault.
what I pictured was our building inspector goes to your place 5 times in 6 months trying to get you to fix it.
Right.
And you just don't.
So
Then it's
it
like,
could be-
sorry,
but
you-
it could be the
you can't
same
do it.
8 items
Yeah.
that
Like
need
getting
to
pulled
be
over.
fixed, but so yeah, it's
Like you
okay.
get pulled over enough times, you lose your license.
All right,
That's
but
kind
so
of the
if
model.
the
yeah.
same 8 items could be not fixed for 6 months, and that would be it. But what if I have 8 items and I fix 3 of them? Is the next appearance the same?
That counts as your, if you sub them
That's-
2, that's number 2.
That's number 2.
Okay.
And then
That's-
if
that's
you're down to
what
1,
I'm clarifying.
that's number 3.
So,
And, yeah.
so I think that this is
But-
really a sticking point
And
for
I
Sally.
tried to make that actually something where it would really be unreasonable of the landlord to do it.
No,
For the
but,
building inspector to say 5, go to visit you
okay,
5 times.
I wanna
in
go
6
the other
months,
way
you know?
though and say, I don't care whether you have 5 or 6, if you don't have a furnace, that's it.
So there should be a one-time thing too.
Yes, that's
There's
what
a
we're
list
trying
of
to
5
say.
items. That's the priority.
Okay, because you know, when I read that 5 items, I read it, and Joe read this too, the same way, that was taking away everything else and limiting
Oh,
it to
no.
only these 5.
We're
That's-
saying-
That's how it,
You absolutely have to have these,
okay, so
and
that's,
that's it.
All right.
You have to have those.
let me
So
take
some-
this back and rewrite.
Somehow, that has to be made a necessary condition.
Yes.
Or, no, that could be, so, for example, you could say the building inspector shows up, so you've been mailed this checklist, you got it when you signed up for the first time, everyone knows what you gotta do. And so the building inspector goes there and you got, you know, your gutters are down, your paint's down, you da-da-da-da-da, you're going to court.
Right.
And then we come back in a month, whatever, the second time, whatever. But, so what you're saying is, if we show up though, and it's not a matter of gutters and things, but, oh, you have no furnace? It
That's
doesn't
it.
matter that how many times, we're not waiting until number 5.
That's right.
You're out now.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
you're going
And
to court.
that's
Yeah.
why the
Okay.
displaced tenant would go along
It would
with things
trigger
like
that.
That.
So trigger
because
both.
it means that right now,
You
cannot
can't
live
rent.
there.
Right, so basically what I wrote wasn't quite clear and what you wrote wasn't quite clear.
And-
For the
Well,
other-
I would argue
for the
ours
other-
is
for
very
the other-
clear.
For the other person, for the other
And
person.
we need to make sure that the tenant hasn't broken the furnace.
I don't know, Joe, what do you think about, because for me, that's a private contract. That, if, when you're a landlord and making enormous profits, hey, if your tenants break stuff, that's just a cost of doing business.
I mean, I would refrain from saying the words like enormous profits.
Yeah.
Well, 600 a room on average, depends on how many rooms, you know. And your tax, it depends on a lot, obviously, but if it's a profit-making business, no one is gonna say landlords aren't making money.
No, I'm not
That's what I
saying
mean,
that.
that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely
Right.
not saying that.
So as a cost of business, you know, I don't know, though that's hazy, because I understand, it's, you know, I don't know how to deal with that one, basically. Because how do you prove whether the hole was there in the wall before you moved in or after, unless everyone's taking pictures and, I mean, we have
I
that
mean,
now
I
with
recommend
security.
people take pictures.
Oh, I do too, but there's landlords who don't get securities back, there's dishonest tenants, there's dishonest landlords, and it's like,
So
how
I'm
do you
back
deal
above
with
that. But what I guess I'm concluding, not what I'm suggesting, but I'm concluding, is that we do need to connect
Mm-hmm.
129.9
And I think I know how.
to
I mean,
129.12.
it doesn't matter if there are 10 violations, 15 violations, 4 violations. If one of these
If it's
is
water or heat,
then it's a done
That is-
deal. You
yeah,
can't
Yeah,
do it.
it's uninhabitable,
yeah,
Right,
and you
it's
probably, and then you would lose your C of O, I'd imagine.
and you should.
You should, yeah,
Yeah.
until you do
Okay.
whatever. All right,
So we
let's,
understand.
that's it, and we can
All
talk
right.
about this more next time. Joe,
I think we've made progress though.
We did, actually, it was very nice and
Yes.
pleasant. I like that kind of.
And I thought we could do it, it's just that I think that we were not, I think
Yeah.
a lot of this can be melded together, and I
I'm
think
gonna take another
actually,
crack at another draft. Let's table
Yeah.
this, let me take a crack at it, because it's 11, and we got 2
Yeah.
more things to do.
what else
Joe-
do we have to do?
Do we have, what, peddlers and solicitors?
Okay.
What is this? What are we doing?
I've got stuff. I've got things to say about this.
Bad things?
Yes, but no, well, not, maybe not. Productive things. So I think some of this we touched upon in the past, and I don't think it's been changed at all. But I don't know if we gave specific direction, but I certainly brought up a couple things. One of them is that nowhere does it address a one-day peddler's permit for community events. Right now, our law has provisions for that, and this doesn't say anything about it. And also, I'm thinking that what we're doing is confusing door-to-door soliciting versus street vending. And
What I'm trying to do is unconfuse it, so let's talk about that, because if it's
Can I make a suggestion?
well, I think we need to have two totally separate laws.
I don't necessarily disagree, that's fine, I'm putting it where it is in the code now, but I
Right.
think right now that is a weakness of our code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like when you fill out a peddler's permit application, it asks for your height and your weight and a passport photo and things that like I think we should have if somebody's going door to door in our community and, you know, God forbid something happens and we want to know exactly who that person was that was knocking on doors.
But that's about soliciting.
But that's a different thing.
Right.
I would like to suggest the following. I think both, and forgive me, your proposal and the current law both stink beyond belief. And what I would like to do is I would like this board to sit and talk about concepts. Do we want door-to-door solicitation? Yes, if it's the Girl Scouts or, you know, okay, and take every concept. Do we want trucks roaming around the streets peddling?
Maybe.
Maybe, but we need to discuss it. Is
We
it
have to discuss it
perfectly
tonight.
proper for either a cart or a truck or whatever, a table, of somebody who wants to sell on private property and has an agreement with the private property owner? Is that any of our business? I mean, I think we really need to sit and talk about concepts rather than try and ask Joe to fix a law that's no good to begin with, and I think we're gonna get in more trouble.
So what do you want to do tonight, Sally?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
What I'd like to do is I would like us to set a half an hour or an hour, I don't care whether it takes us, next meeting, and talk about concepts, yay or nay, and then tell Joe what we want. Because
I already know what I want.
I think
So I could talk about that tonight because I've been prepared for this.
I've been prepared to say it stinks for a long time, Ariana.
I've been prepared to tell you point by point what I think we should do.
Are you prepared to have us be very tired and?
I agree.
I can say it and we don't have to have a further discussion. It can be points that all of you can think about for next time.
Why don't we do that? That's perfect.
Okay.
Is that all right with you, Sally?
I'm starting
I
to
just-
fade, but
Oh, I
I'm
faded.
with.
We've a building inspector to hire, we have,
Yeah, but that's just a motion and a vote.
All right, this is the
Let me
last.
make my
All
points.
right, it'll be fast if she makes her point.
All right. I already made the first one about the door-to-door soliciting versus street soliciting. I think we should have two separate laws on that.
I agree.
I think for one-day peddlers permits, that we need to have indication for that for community events, and that we need to redo the application forms and have two different application forms, one for a peddler's permit that is going to last a year, one for, or maybe three, one for something that is door to door, and one for something where businesses that are already established in our community should be able to participate in a one-day event without going and getting a passport photo.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so that's another point. So in
That was all at one point?
that was that was three.
Okay.
maybe that's none of our business, because if they're connected with an already existing business, and this is kind of convoluted but already in the law, that's the only way they can get a peddler's
That's
permit
right. I don't want to make this longer, but see, you're right. That's the issue. The reason we've been able to issue permits at all, frankly, is because of that caveat. But our law doesn't really address it at all. We're kind of accepting it from the law. So go ahead. I don't want to slow it down.
Well, so I think we should make that
Don't say things like that on
explicit,
camera.
so that it's, having a vendor that is operating with an already existing business is totally different than having a vendor that is operating completely independent from already existing businesses. And I also think that we should look into the question of whether or not including private property in the definition of a public space is, maybe that's questionable. And maybe, we should think about that more specifically. So those are my philosophical.
Right.
And I don't disagree.
Email those to
I
us?
can totally email this, all of you. Yes.
I absolutely agree, but I'm gonna add a couple of things, and that is, I don't like the definition of private property that can be considered public
That's what
space.
Ariana
I
That's
think
what I
that
said.
Yeah.
really
And that's a longer conversation, like you said, one of the philosophical.
Yeah.
All right.
But so I think
Wait, I'm sorry, was that all five?
that was all of my points, and I think, these are the ideas that I would like to discuss, and I have some
Absolutely.
further concepts. So
Perfect.
maybe when Joe and I sit down and
Yeah.
talk about, I don't remember what we were gonna talk about, short-term rentals, we can talk about this too.
All right.
And-
Sorry, what? Sally?
And I really want to address and discuss trucks like Good Humor Men,
Yeah. No, it's.
and I mean, I think that because I, for one, am opposed to
Ice cream.
truck peddlers.
I mean, look, don't forget, this is largely, if you remember, an incentive of mine. If you remember, I mean, this is Ariana and Sally are absolutely right. I'm trying to encourage a philosophical discussion about how you want to handle this, because your present law does not address these issues appropriately.
It stinks.
That's it.
And
So,
I want to
I wasn't
finally
trying to say,
resolve
do it this
the
way.
clerk's problems of having
That's
to
right.
deal.
All right.
Absolutely.
We have two more things. Do we need to go into executive session to discuss Kasama?
Do we?
I don't think so.
No.
No, because I'm conflicted
We,
out.
we did discuss it, Jason.
All right, so he's my landlord. Do we,
Okay, sorry.
so since I am, well, still, whatever, so if that, I'm fading too. Would someone like to make the appropriate motion? Because I don't know what that is.
Oh, let me find the,
Joe, what is the motion? Phrase it for us.
let me find my,
Simple, keep it simple.
Is everybody comfortable with what
I don't understand why you have what you're proposing embedded in a 100-acre property thing.
So, all right, do we need to go into executive session to discuss this? Or is
No,
it simple up and down?
no, he can answer it right away, because
Right.
we know what we agreed. And that is that we will trade Mr. Casano the triangle property, which is to be surveyed and measured and all of that.
Right.
We will give him that little piece in trade for an easement in perpetuity across the property to the rail trail.
It's actually, it's two different things.
Yes.
Right? One is across that property as a continuation of the bike.
Right, exactly.
The other is across that property as may be necessary, but also his current property, which he plans to develop
Right.
to the rail trail. It's actually
Right.
two different
Yeah,
things.
but my only question is this. Why is that embedded in something that says identified as 100 acres?
It's a typo.
Huh?
100 acre, I figured, that's already fixed.
Where is that?
It's in the first
First-
paragraph under description of the premises.
100 acres.
It's just, and it's already been fixed actually.
Well, can we have the corrected?
It's like
Fix.
0.91
Yeah.
or something.
And it,
Or
and it,
not 0.91, 0.19.
it might be missing a point.
No more typos in contracts, please.
Well, again, the contracts, yeah, okay, yes.
What are you gonna say about it?
But it has already been fixed. Look, this is what you need to, this is the heart of the deal.
Number 2.
That is
Right.
the heart of the deal.
And it's a very straightforward contract. I met with Mr. Castano.
So I will move the approval.
Do you just need that?
It's
for
part of
legal
a,
things?
exactly.
Okay.
It's a weird
I was just
You gotta give
arcane,
me some money.
it's an
Right.
arcane,
Well, he's giving us money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it $10?
Don't ask.
It really is, it's an arcane legal Latin.
really-
Okay,
Just has-
I
Yeah.
move.
No, well, I have one more question. I'm
Sure.
sorry, about the permitted exceptions. I think I'm just confused. Can you explain it to me?
There is no Exhibit A.
Number
Where's
4.
Exhibit A?
Well, Exhibit A will be the thing that's surveyed. That's
Okay.
a
The survey.
Subject to sale, makes no representative one.
Uh,
Two.
permitted exceptions. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right there. Okay, do you have a specific question, or you just want me to tell you what that means?
Tell me.
It's actually, you probably, if anybody here owns a house, you've seen it in a contract before, you just didn't read it. It's very typical stuff. All it means is that the buyer is taking, subject to these kinds of restrictions. It's almost like a buyer beware provision.
Okay.
So it means, for instance, that
So he has to follow zoning and subdivision laws.
exactly,
Okay.
whatever,
Alright.
whatever may, like real estate taxes that are lien, it's his job. He
Got
he
it.
wants to get a title report and confirm that there's no taxes that are lien, that's his issue.
Okay.
That's what it means.
All right.
My only question is, before I move this,
Yeah.
is do we make him pay for the survey of the triangle?
There's actually already a survey of the triangle in that former judgment that he was trying to press,
Okay, but does that concur with your research and Ariana's when
Yes.
you were doing all this?
because I had a title report run
Okay,
way
I-
back when Ariana was first looking into this as part of the bike.
I'm going to move the approval of the contract of sale to Richard Casana per the stipulations of the contract of sale,
And
the exchange of a triangle as referenced in the contract, and in exchange for
Access to the rail trail.
access to
Over
the
the parcel to be transferred and his existing property. And
access
access over the triangle
for the bike.
for the bike path.
Okay.
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain due to conflict.
It's too bad Mr. Casana isn't here.
I know, poor guy's
Because,
in-
I mean,
trying to-
I think somebody ought to call him on the phone and say, this is finally
Yeah,
over.
I'll tell him.
Can I tell you something? We're in constant contact.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, one more.
This has
One
been
more
going
thing.
on,
All right,
One more thing.
two more things.
one more, well, maybe two. Do we need to go to executive session to discuss my appointments as building inspector and planning secretary?
Well, what I need you to do is,
By the way, it's consensus, Maurice couldn't be with us, but myself, Rebecca,
Both of
Katie,
my
and
pens.
Carl
You've got
Budman
my pen.
all agreed that these were the top choices.
I looked at their resumes
Okay.
just now and they look okay.
I don't think you must go in executive session.
No, if anyone wanted to question the process or anything else, we should.
what I need you to do is make the motion of the actual reference to Ulster County Civil Service, the hours to be employed, and the rate.
I don't have those things.
How can I approve something?
You know what? Because we just finished them today, and I completely forgot.
Could we have an emergency meeting on
I think
Friday?
we maybe should do an emergency meeting.
If you do that, you can adopt this environmental policy. I know what happened. It's a flip-flop of the
Okay.
merge. That's, and I know I can have it back to you in time, just for what it's worth, and then you could adopt that.
Well, if that's fine with me, if the majority can make it.
I
Do-
was
do
gonna
you-
start, maybe we'll go.
Because you're right, because we sent the ad out, at least for the planning secretary, as depending on some
Doesn't Katie,
experience.
Katie, you sat in on the interviews.
Yeah.
What was agreed upon? What hourly rate?
We never agreed.
Compensatory upon,
Okay.
Upon experience.
Why don't we have a special meeting?
And I'll talk to Nancy and.
Get
and-
all that from Nancy and the same
And I think
for,
it's the same, I think we had more than 10 hours for this building inspector position, but I'll double check that too.
Yeah.
I don't think it was 2 10 hours, I think it was a.
and what, according to civil
Yeah,
service and all that.
exactly, yeah,
And
yeah.
the same for this gal.
Yeah, I apologize, I should have had that stuff ready, but.
Both of those need,
And I'll reach out and call you all tomorrow and try to schedule a time on Monday to have
On
an emergency.
Friday.
I would do it Friday.
I can't be here.
I can.
Can you, Ariana?
Let me see.
Friday afternoon? Or-
Just one more.
I teach at 12:45.
So say 4 o'clock Friday?
I mean, I could do 2:15.
That's fine with
2
me.
o'clock is fine, I can make that.
2 o'clock?
And
I
that's,
mean, I'm done teaching.
Will you send us all
I'm
an
done
email?
teaching at 2 o'clock, but I'm at St. Joe's, so I can zip on over.
Okay, so
Why
we're
don't we
gonna
say
agree,
2:15? Give you
2
time.
o'clock, we're
No,
gonna.
no, we're gonna 2:15, she's
Oh,
done at 2.
2:15, okay.
So 2:15.
But you'll send an email
Yeah.
telling me, because I'm too tired to
What I'll
write
do
it.
is when I notice the paper, I'll send
Okay.
you a copy of it.
Thank you.
All right, you know what we need, Jason.
Yes, I
And
know
we
what we
can
need,
then
and,
do-
I got overexcited.
We can do your environmental,
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay, that we can do too.
That'd be awesome.
And actually, neither of these folks can start right away, they gotta give 2 weeks anyway to their,
so,
so we got time, so it's fine.
but
So-
still, we wanna hire
You
them.
wanna give them the notice.
Sooner
No, we wanna lock them in.
Yeah, but it's nobody who's,
All right.
I'll let them know tomorrow, whatever, we'll figure it out.
Okay, and for the next agenda, I would like to discuss whether we want to hire a new planner or not. Because I keep seeing references that we are advertising for a planner, but the board has not said anything about what it wants to do.
We don't usually ask permission for established positions, we just try to refill them.
Well, that was a,
We'll talk, all right, well, we can talk about it.
let's talk about it.
Tell Katie that you wanna have it on the agenda.
Anything else?
I just made note of that. Don't you have to go to executive session?
Who's gonna be in charge of the building?
To
Huh?
discuss
Do anything for a moment.
That's why I want to have a discussion.
We have to move to close the,
I'm moving to adjourn.
oh,
No, please, no,
Huh?
please, no.
CSEA?
move to adjourn.
Oh, my lord, yes.
No. Do we have to tonight? Is
Joe,
it-
what's our next meeting with negotiations?
It's tentatively scheduled for the 6th and the 7th, like 6th or 7th.
6 or 7.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait.
It's before our next meeting, but Joe won't be here.
Are you
on
free
Friday.
Friday to meet with us at
At 2.
2:15?
I'm not.
Could you do it later in the day? Could I make it later?
Oh, God.
Can we coordinate this? Because there's no way, 11:15 to start this.
Well, I'll
meeting.
tell you what maybe we could do is, there really were only a few highlighted issues. I mean, you, Ariana, and you know what those issues are. We
Why
could
don't
put
you
them-
send us and we'll review
Yeah.
at our special meeting with you
I mean, you don't
guys.
need me to decide, those are business issues.
Right, they're
you
business
know,
issues.
I
Just
can
make sure
put
I
them-
have the list.
Yeah, I'll put them in
Send
the
it
list.
to Ariana and me and we'll deal with it on
Right.
Friday.
All right.
Okay?
Been moved and seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.